The boy sleeps peacefully, immersed in silence. Everything seems serene. Suddenly, a book falls from the shelf and wakes him up. Confused, he gets up and tries to understand what happened. His gaze falls on the mirror by the bed and he stares into it. In horror, he notices that someone else's face is reflected on the other side. He remembers. Recently, he was a young archaeologist, and now he is an ordinary schoolboy. There are two unfamiliar books lying nearby, and he is at a loss to guess where they came from. The guy notices another book. He takes it in his hands, but suddenly he gets an electric shock. Scenes and memories from the life of the body's previous owner flash before my eyes. He looks out the window and sees an alien world. The planet Blue Star, not like Earth. Here, everything can become an extraordinary being and gain the highest wisdom. The hero rides on a huge bird, seeing how the inhabitants of the Blue Star control animals with their abilities. He meditates, developing his mind so that he can soon subjugate divine beings. He stands before his tamed beasts, realizing that this is how people created civilization, the age of beast control. The girl sits majestically on a chair, surrounded by her submissive animals. The hero flies on an electric ray, terrifying people. The strongest creatures often become their enemies. The boy realizes that all knowledge about animals comes from the memory of a boy named John, although his name is the same. Before him are the boy's parents, frozen forever among the evil beasts and debris. The archaeologist in John's body realizes that this world is no better than Earth. Realizing that he is no longer who he was, the hero approaches the scanner and reveals his plan of action. He is surprised to see a screen filled with advertisements. John closes the annoying ad and sees his plan. Now he is just an intern at an animal breeding base. He takes a training book, working part-time at the base with only one goal: to become a beastmaster. The hero realizes that his life is full of problems: loans, poverty, difficult family situation. He decides that he first needs to sort out his plans for the day. He remembers the snow wolves, dangerous predators, and doubts whether he can handle feeding them alone. But he is reassured by the thought of his innate talent, telepathy. John stands among the animals, using his gift of communicating with them, a useless skill in combat, but a vital one. With the ability to talk to creatures, he can easily handle feeding the snow wolves. Suddenly, he touches the magic cube, deciding to study the system closer. Finding himself in an unfamiliar space, he floats in the air. Suddenly, a book appears in front of him, and John realizes that this is his second unique skill. The talent guide is now unlocked for him. John realizes that people can awaken talents when activating space, divided into enhancement and specialization in a ratio of 9:1. Those with the talent of strengthening are able to strengthen beasts. This is a typical combat skill. Specialization skills are more complex and varied than enhancements. John's innate telepathy is a common specialization, not the strongest, but reliable for finding work. Now he gains a new skill: the ability to copy and record the abilities of supernatural beasts in order to teach them to other beasts, but not to humans. In order to copy the abilities of beasts, John must fulfill 3 conditions: see the ability in action, touch the beast, and fit within an hour between these stages. The copy skill requires physical strength if he wants to teach the beast new abilities, and the strength depends on the skill level. John realizes that each beast has a natural affinity for certain skills. He understands that his talent for recording and accumulating skills is the real envy of others. As John reads further, he learns that a beastmaster's strength depends not only on the beast's talents, but also on the development of his own skills and their rarity. Closing the book, John reflects that with its help, he will be able to collect the rarest talents. He is happy that he now has 2 skills, even if the old John's memory of it was completely blank. John understands that having ended up in another world, he cannot be an ordinary person, since this has become possible. He realizes that the past John had telepathy and he had copying, and decides to accept this as compensation for his movement into this world. Suddenly, the ball begins to glow. But John, realizing that he is late, quickly leaves the house. He drives a work vehicle in search of food for the snow wolves. Finding fresh pieces of meat, John is surprised to note that these animals eat better than people. Along the way, he runs into 3 colleagues who ask if he is going to feed the snow wolves. They warn him about the hostility of the animals and advise him to be more careful. John's colleagues offer to help him, but he politely refuses. As he continues on his way, he thinks that he does not remember the previous owner of the body. John reflects that perhaps because of his experiences, the old John loved being alone and did not make friends. He decides to first get to know this world better, and only then build relationships, in the meantime reaching his goal. But while he is distracted, the snow wolves have already noticed him and are preparing to attack. Suddenly, John notices that a pack of wolves has come very close, their angry looks and bared mouths instill fear. The animals threateningly inform him that he is late, and their hunger knows no mercy, threatening John with serious danger. He is overcome with fear and regrets that he agreed to this job, hoping for a miracle, that the Wolf King would save him. And then, as if by magic, the Wolf King appears, powerfully pushing his pack apart, scattering the wolves to the sides and saving John. Proud and majestic, the Wolf King slowly approaches him. The Wolf King approaches the frightened John and gently touches his forehead with his nose. Suddenly, the reference book pops out of John's clothes, and he doesn't understand why now. It turns out that the Wolf King's ability, containment, is now recorded in the handbook, and John will be able to teach it to other supernatural beings. John is delighted to have received this powerful gift, realizing that his ability to control beasts has increased significantly. The Wolf King speaks to John again, and through telepathy, John understands his words. John is happy to realize that he is no longer in danger. The mark of the Wolf King is working, and the whole pack has become more submissive to him. While petting one of the wolves, John realizes that he can now teach it the skill of restraint passed on by the Wolf King, and essentially create a new king. He realizes that any thoughtless action can lead to problems, and decides to be more careful. John continues his work, a little frustrated that he cannot copy the skills of other wolves, as they have unique talents. On the way home, he reflects on how lucky he is to have a top-level skill in his reference book. But suddenly his gaze is drawn to a green eagle in the sky, which can be taught this powerful skill. John realizes that it is possible to create not only a king of wolves, but also a king of birds. He dreams of doing this, but remembers his work and decides that everything has its time. On a billboard, he sees a picture of a panda and realizes that this animal was chosen by the body's previous owner. On Blue Star, the panda race is not yet fully developed, only possessing the ability to harden. John thinks pandas are lazy, but given the collateral and potential, he agrees the choice of predecessor was wise. John understands that pandas have limitations in their development and skills, but he decides that he can overcome these difficulties. An idea strikes him. Use the pandas to mine minerals, using their hardening ability and newly acquired restraint talent, and then add acceleration and perception skills. He rejoices when he realizes that such a combination could make his panda the king of pandas. But he soon realizes that he can only get a loan with a breeder's certificate and completed practice. John is a little upset, realizing that he will only be able to get his baby panda after successfully completing the internship. John returns to work, hoping to copy the new skills. Later, he finds himself in silkworm observation training, which requires complete concentration, or he will have to face 1,000 of the creatures alone. Looking at the insects, he thinks that individually they are too weak, but they have the potential to grow. Using telepathy, John chuckles at the little silkworms, not expecting them to pose any threat to him. The insects notice John's mockery. Some look at him with resentment, others with anger. Suddenly, silkworms create projectiles of silk and spray it onto his face at incredible speed. John notes with bewilderment that at least this does not harm him. While holding one of the silkworms on his finger, he suddenly realizes that he can teach it the skill of restraint. This discovery astounds him. He could not imagine that such creatures were compatible with this talent. A new skill is added to his book, Silken Bonds. John is upset to learn that the skill cannot be taught to others, but consoles himself with the thought that although it is a small thing, it is still a skill. He learns from the reference book that the silkworm can be retrained to perform this skill. Repetitive learning has been shown to improve skill mastery. John doubts he can pull it off at a base where there are too many eyes. Returning home, he sits down at his laptop and begins to study the abilities of the animals at the base. None of the animals at the base have the necessary skills, which disappoints John. He understands that the abilities of these creatures are too low level and not worth copying. John wonders if there is a limit to the number of skills he can copy, and decides to focus only on mid to high level skills. Suddenly it dawns on him. At the base, one can search not only for animals, but also for other animal masters. Determined, John sets out to find the information he needs. John goes outside in search of a healing skill. Pretending to be ill, he complains to the doctor about a dislocated wrist. The doctor, seeing him, thinks that he is a young intern who has recently graduated from school. People like him often get injured. She reassures John, promising to cure him. The doctor begins to use his healing skill while sitting in his seat. John admires her ability and is glad that he can gain her skill for his own purposes. The doctor assures John that everything will be fine soon and the pain will subside. The hero gets a new skill, fast healing. Smiling, the doctor reports that her dandelions indicated that the injury was minor. John promises to be more careful next time. Realizing that he faked being injured to copy the skill, he decides to buy treats for the plant pets tomorrow to thank them for their time. At home, John examines his hand, thinking that despite the minor injury, the doctor still used the pet's power, apparently to improve the skill's mastery. He realizes that his handbook can be used for this purpose, speeding up the training of pets in an alternative way. Lying in bed, John thinks that the doctor is only a trainee beastmaster for now, but upon reaching a certain level of skill, she will be able to pass certification and become a professional beastmaster. John wonders how long it will take him to reach that level with 2 skills. After 3 months, John has exhausted the limit of abilities recorded in the handbook and is glad that he did not waste it on low-level skills. He gains the skill Providence from the high-ranking birds patrolling the skies above the base. He then finds the skill Absolute Sleep copied from the Sleep Demon, a breeder beast from the base, which uses this ability to enter a deep, restorative sleep. John is confident that with these 2 skills, he will be able to save mountains of gold in the future. John sits in his room, hoping the panda will understand him. They are too weak, and the limit of 5 skills seems too small to him. Finding himself back in the empty space where he unlocked his second skill, John realizes that in order to increase the pages, he needs to develop new abilities and level up the Beastmaster. The level can be raised through meditation, strengthening and expanding the space of control of beasts. The more stable this space is, the stronger the beasts he can control. The better the internal atmosphere, the faster the beasts develop. The larger the space, the more contracts he can conclude. Each overlord chooses his own path. John sets a goal to become a professional beastmaster within a year. He takes a bus to the panda breeding base. The country where it is located is one of the most ancient states, known as the Dazzling East. The bus moves through the picturesque landscapes of the second-rank city. Pandas are popular not only here but throughout China. Arriving at the base, John is finally ready to pick up the reserved panda. John runs to his pet, his heart skipping a beat with joy. He has been waiting for this moment for so long. Tired, he breathes heavily and complains about the length of the stairs, wondering why there are so few people here. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by something in front of him, and John looks up. There was a huge panda standing in front of him. He certainly didn't expect that. The beast is so large that it could crush John, but instead it approaches him in a friendly manner and extends a paw in greeting. Panda says that she is a base employee and greets John. Panda reassures John that it's just a suit, but he doesn't understand how anyone can wear it in this heat. The man in the suit explains that this is necessary to better understand and feel the mood of the pandas. After all, to raise a strong panda, you need to fully understand it. This is a basic breeder skill. Panda Man praises John for his understanding, and he finally discerns a female voice beneath the suit. John modestly replies that he is just a beginner and is still far from being Nicholas's teacher. The girl in the suit hugs John and says that this method is available to everyone, offering to buy 2 suits at a discount. John realizes that he called his new beast Teacher. Panda invites him inside to pick up his new pet. Inside, the girl finally takes off her suit and relaxes. In front of John stands a long-haired girl in a cute sweater with a picture of a panda. He thinks she must just be into pandas and hopes she doesn't offer to buy him that sweater too. At the reception, the girl tells John that all the necessary materials are here. The panda lover has delighted him with the news that he will be able to get his panda today. John, happy, asks if he can choose it himself. But the girl says that he came too late, and there is only one panda left. This panda turns out to be a problem, and John feels cheated. They walk around the base, enjoying the beautiful views. Along the way, they see many pandas resting and relaxing peacefully. John is touched when he looks at the pandas and thinks that they are as passive as he imagined. The girl interrupts his thoughts, explaining that the adult pandas are calm this season, but the babies are much more active. John is delighted to notice a baby panda on their way. She looks at them with distrust, not yet understanding what awaits her. They go down to the panda, and John notices that she looks pretty normal. But suddenly the panda runs headlong into a tree, and John instantly changes his mind. The little panda does a somersault and lands on the ground. The girl tells John that this panda's birth was difficult, which is why she is physically weaker than the others and has not yet awakened her abilities. The later an animal awakens its power, the less talent it has for mastering skills, so this panda kept to itself. All these difficulties influenced her character and behavior. She explains that pandas are usually non-confrontational, and that the panda hitting its head on the tree is its way of training. This panda is extremely disciplined, constantly working on herself to awaken her powers faster. She has a dream, and she is not lazy about achieving it. John admires the panda, noting her hard work and determination despite her lack of obvious talent. The girl reassures him, explaining that the panda is simply developing more slowly, but that it is possible to work with it. She adds that such a diligent panda is a great rarity. The girl also mentions that this panda has a bad sleep pattern and appetite, and before starting training, this must first be corrected. Despite all the difficulties, John decides to take the panda to his home. He is sure that diligence and a strong character are more important than the passivity of an animal that only eats and sleeps. The girl asks if John is sure of his decision, because talent is of great importance for beastmasters. But John has no doubts, admiring the panda's dedication and hard work. He even jokingly asks if he can get a discount. The girl explains that there are no discounts because they treat all animals equally. But as a bonus, she will give him a month's supply of bamboo. John is happy and thanks her for the gift. The girl approaches the panda and tells her that she is being taken away, asking if she is happy about it. Through telepathy, John understands that the panda is defiantly responding that she will never become a slave and will become stronger herself. She shouts that pandas are not afraid of anything and do not need masters. The girl calmly lifts the panda into her arms, and John understands that in front of him is truly an animal with character. She talks to the panda, explaining that if she decides to run away, she will be left without food, and the Beastmaster will help her become stronger and awaken her power. The girl adds that John's living conditions will be more comfortable, with plenty of delicious food and amenities. Panda reluctantly agrees, telling John that he expects shelter and food. John promises to provide her with this, but admits that it will happen when the money comes in. The panda smiles contentedly, declaring that pandas will never become slaves, except for housing and food. The girl is glad that the panda is in good hands and is happy for her. John looks at his panda and thinks that when he becomes a great beast master, he will have everything he wants. The panda looks at him in a friendly manner, and John understands that his animal is ready to work hard. He asks the girl if he can sign the contract now. She replies that he can go and she will take care of the rest. John begins the ritual, thinking that the other overlords were not interested in this panda due to his lack of talent. But he has a different opinion. The shortcomings of talent can be corrected in the Beastmaster's space. Such cases have already happened. The panda's talent lies in her tenacity and hard work, and John is sure that she just wants to be recognized. During John's spell, the girl calms the panda, asking her not to resist. John is confident that this panda, who was rejected by her relatives and masters, will definitely become stronger with him. He sincerely hopes that his animal will have a better future. After finishing, John notices that he is more tired than he expected, feeling completely exhausted. Suddenly he feels a heat wave, but he quickly realizes that it is the effect of his instant recovery ability. The girl congratulates John on successfully concluding the contract, but advises him to let the panda get used to the space and not to call her too often at first. The girl explains that if the panda quickly gets used to the atmosphere in the space, then its abilities can awaken within a week. John notices that his pet has a new contract listed in his handbook, and that his physical stats have improved, allowing him to record more skills. He realizes that he can now use some of his pet's power, so the girl managed to suppress the panda. Although the beast is weak, it will still have a lot to offer him. The girl asks him worriedly if everything is okay. John replies that yes, but his body has undergone 2 drastic changes. The girl reassures John that at first everything will be unusual, but over time it will become normal. Then, returning to her duties, she explains how to properly feed the panda and that the necessary paperwork needs to be filled out. She adds that once the supplies run out, John can always come back for more, but next time there will be a fee. John timidly mentions that he has one more request, and the girl looks at him with interest. He asks if he can come to the base to raise his panda and learn more about its natural habitat. The girl answers with a smile that he can always come to the base with his panda. After all, it is her home. John realizes that there will be no more free food and thinks that he will have to make do, but maybe he will be able to get some kind of ability. He feeds his panda, thinking that he needs to quickly return home and start training the animal. Returning, John looks around the yard and decides that it is a great place to train. He calls his panda and asks him to help him clean up. A panda appears in the backyard, moving towards him in a friendly manner. John pets his pet and he smiles contentedly, enjoying the moment. The hero is touched and decides that he will handle the cleaning himself, freeing the panda from help. John, sitting opposite his panda, says that he is going to teach her the hardening skill that is unique to this species. To his delight, the panda awakens the ability on the first try. John is jubilant, thinking that all the panda needed was a good night's sleep. He pets his pet, remembering how the girl from the base said that it would take a week. But thanks to the possibilities of space, everything went surprisingly quickly. John offers to help the panda with cleaning the yard, which is what he called her for. The panda looks at him with bewilderment, not understanding what he is talking about. John gets upset and decides that he might have to teach her the skill again. John opens his book and tells the panda that it usually takes a month of intense training to improve a skill from beginner to advanced. But with the help of a training manual, this period can be reduced to a few days. Realizing that this is energy-consuming, John decides to test the method on the green silkworm's most useless skill. However, his attempt fails. The skill is incompatible with pandas. John is looking for a suitable creature to test his skill on. Suddenly, he notices a green silkworm on a branch and realizes that he needs to catch it. He points out the silkworm to the panda, reminding him that this is their first major test after awakening their powers. The panda focuses on the target. In the blink of an eye, she rushes to the tree where the silkworm sits. Acting confidently and quickly, she achieves her goal. The panda deftly grabs a green silkworm sitting calmly on a branch. John rejoices at his pet's success and praises him generously. The panda releases the silkworm to the ground, and he and John stand ominously above the tiny creature. John has only one chance to teach the silkworm a new skill, and he can't pass up the opportunity. He suddenly lunges at the silkworm, covering it with his hands to prevent it from escaping, while the panda sits and watches the spectacle in bewilderment. John holds an insect in his hands, and his pet, standing behind him, watches closely. The silkworm, in fear, releases a stream of silk, trying to defend itself. But the guy doesn't back down. He trained for 3 months and knows how to catch people like that. John calmly persuades the insect to be more docile, hinting that otherwise he will feed it to the panda. The animal licks its lips in anticipation. For it, the most important thing in life is to eat well. The hero notices that the silkworm can be taught a new skill, which will improve its performance. He opens the manual and starts training to see the result. The insect desperately resists, unprepared for what is happening. John notices the silkworm getting exhausted and the panda looking on in confusion with his mouth open. Suddenly, the guy is overcome by extreme fatigue and hunger. But despite this, he notices something curious. A new pattern appears on the silkworm's back, but the hero is not yet confident of success. At this moment, the silkworm feels a surge of strength from the new skill, becoming noticeably more powerful. Suddenly, the insect escapes from John's hands, and he doesn't have time to react. The silkworm attacks by wrapping strong threads around his arms. John notices that the silk threads have become much stronger than before. He tears them apart with the force of his hands. The difference in size and strength leaves the insect no chance. The boy calmly approaches the silkworm, calming it down and doubting whether its skill has reached the level of a trained one. John notices that the threads of this silkworm are comparable to those that feed on the spiritual herbs at the base. Perhaps the cultivation rank is lower, but the skill level is clearly high. He understands that in addition to the skill level, it is also necessary to increase the development rank, because green silkworms can have deeper racial abilities, which leads to their strengthening and awakening. During the training, John sacrifices some of his power, but is pleased that the experiment was a success and the energy costs were acceptable. Opening the manual, he realizes that he will only be able to train the silkworm again in 8 hours. John realizes that overtraining animals will drain his body. If he wants to use the handbook to its full potential, he will have to become stronger. He studies the silkworm in its cage closely, wondering how long it will take to teach it more complex skills. The guy thinks about means for accelerated recovery. If there are drugs for animals, then surely there will be some for people like him. John smiles and tells the panda that for dinner they will have minced pork with bamboo shoots and white rice. John invites his pet to rest while he prepares dinner, promising to call him to the table when everything is ready. But the panda is perplexed. How can one rest when the ability has just awakened? She tells John that she is already far behind her peers and wants to train right now. The pet goes into a rage, and John remembers that the girl from the base definitely said that he clearly has some kind of problem. The hero allows the panda to practice in the yard, which the animal is incredibly happy about. But John warns that there is no suitable training equipment in the yard yet. John suggests practicing activation, holding and blocking the solidification. He advises his pet to hone the skill and apply it to specific areas of the body. Panda readily agrees, assuring that he will do everything as John ordered. The guy understands. The panda is again eager to destroy. If not a tree, then a wall. She just arrived and is already ready to destroy everything. Discipline is good, but a different approach is needed. John needs to find a way to earn money for proper equipment. John plans to breed green silkworms. If the silk is of good quality, products made from it can be sold profitably, but he needs to be able to combine work with pets. He is confident that as his skill grows, the quality of the silk will improve, and then a bundle of threads will cover all the financial needs of the family. A tired John returns to his room while the panda, tired after a good workout, is already fast asleep. He knows that the panda does not like to eat before training, but even when full, he continues to work with full dedication. Looking at his sleeping pet, John quietly promises to never leave him, no matter what happens. The hero returns the pet to the Beastmaster's space. Lying in bed, John regrets that he didn't fall asleep hugging the panda and missed this moment. In the morning, the green silkworm spins a web, pulling green leaves towards itself. There's no one around, and he's enjoying a fresh breakfast. Suddenly, John runs out of the house, screaming throughout the yard, scaring the insect to the point of trembling. John opens the handbook and sees that the recovery time has passed. Now he can train his pet again. Today he is going to teach him how to harden, but first he wants to check something. He tells his pet that he is going shopping, but will return soon and let him out. Walking up to the silkworm cage in a friendly manner, John waves his hand, remembering that he forgot to say hello. Noticing the insect using the skill to reach the leaves, he smiles. On the way to the store, John thinks about his strange but funny new friend. Other silkworms eat nutritious plants to grow faster, but this one eats leaves carefree, as if he doesn't think about anything. John decides to pick some more leaves on his way home to add variety to his diet. He understands that spiritual herbs are not affordable, but ordinary plants are also full of useful substances. He will not let his silkworm starve. Stepping out onto a busy street, John notices that everything around him has changed dramatically. John notices a man on a cart pulled by snow wolves and freezes in amazement. He thinks it's an original way to care for the environment, even though it uses animals in a way that is not quite intended. Turning around, John sees a cat running straight towards him. She runs away from her owner, who desperately asks her to stop. John watches them with bewilderment. Usually pets are more disciplined. Cats as disobedient as this one rarely get contracts. The gem cat's ability is activated by gems, and they determine its evolution. But now the gems are more expensive than the cats themselves. Without them, the cat remains an ordinary pet, but with the ability activated, it becomes an excellent fighter. Finally, John reaches the energy drink store. The sweet saleswoman smiles and offers to help him find what he is looking for. John asks if he can sell his silk in the shop. The girl explains that the silkworms must meet certain nutritional requirements to do so. She adds that the store is ready to take the silk for sale if it is convinced of its high quality. Handing John a brochure, the girl says that all the necessary conditions are listed there. After looking at the prices for silk, John realizes that he can earn a lot of money and live without worries, and gives himself his word. If in a year he doesn't become the master of the beasts, he will go to work at the base to support the development of the panda. John is sure that selling silk is a great idea. It is only necessary to bring its quality to perfection to cover all the costs of training and developing the panda. The saleswoman asks if he is ready to start selling, but John replies that he is not ready yet and asks for 2 bottles of the tonic drink. He leaves the store with a huge bag, carrying a heavy bag on his shoulder. John realizes how inconvenient it is to live without a phone. He couldn't even pay for a bus ticket. He decides that as soon as he earns money, he will buy himself a new phone. Returning home, he puts all the purchases on the table. The first thing John bought was capsules of light spirits. They are made from healing plants and help restore strength and strengthen the body. These capsules quickly eliminate fatigue, and many beastmasters use them after battles to recover. While John can't afford to eat them like candy, they will help reduce the stress on his body during training. He waves his hand, calling his pet to work. The panda appears in front of him, noticeably more cheerful than last time. The pet is full of determination. He is ready for a 6-hour training session. John stops the panda, reminding him that a balance between work and rest is vital. The beast absorbs a lot of energy from the master's space, and most of it is John's own energy. The guy is wondering whether to improve the space or use the reference book for studying. He decides to restore his strength with the help of absolute sleep and plans to teach the panda this as well, suggesting that they practice hardening for now. John touches the panda's head and summons the handbook to begin the learning process. The green silkworm watches from the side, wondering what is happening. John is exhausted training the panda. It is much harder for him than training the silkworm. He feels like he's about to faint, but remembers the tonic he bought that morning. After taking the capsule, he immediately feels a surge of strength and relief, and fatigue recedes. John looks at the panda with slight fear, waiting for its reaction. The animal glows, smiling at the boy, confidence burning in his eyes. Suddenly, the panda raises his fist sharply, using his hardening ability. She swings her weapon with a powerful blow, turning the asphalt into crumbs. John is shocked. He does not understand how and why the panda did this. The beast itself is in shock. It has suddenly become incredibly strong. The hero explains to his pet that his hardening skill is already at the level of a trained fighter and that soon his strength will double. Panda is delighted. He couldn't achieve such results at the base, even with the most rigorous training. John asks if his pet is ready to start new training, but the beast replies that he does not feel he has earned such abilities. It is contrary to his nature. His sudden mastery makes him feel indebted and dissatisfied with himself. The guy offers to return the panda's abilities back, because they became possible only thanks to his energy. But the panda resists and refuses, offering to leave everything as is. Although this is not his merit, the beast is confident that he can compensate for it. As punishment for the injustice, the panda decides to train for 24 hours without sleep. John is surprised by such discipline. The guy agrees, saying that this is not just a workout, but a real workout to the point of exhaustion. Panda trains hard while the hero sits on the porch, leafing through a reference book, lost in thought. Although stamina remains the same, the recovery time has increased significantly. It now takes 24 hours. The pet's skill has reached the trained level. Its stamina and control have increased. Panda can now activate Harden for 30 seconds, and canceling the ability has become faster. The next goal is to increase the speed of using the skill and learn to temper only the necessary parts of the body, turning it into an offensive weapon and defense in combat. While the panda trains, John reflects that the house and the playground are too fragile for such powerful loads. For further hardening training, special equipment will be required. He notices how the panda's diligence has increased, and along with it, the energy consumption in the Beastmaster's space has increased. Controlling the pet's strength in this space is key, especially for those who raise wild, powerful beasts. Also important is the volume, how many pets the master can control, which is especially necessary for those who prefer to fight in a group. The environment determines the growth rate, development, and combat skills of the pet. The better it is, the faster the panda becomes stronger. Walking down the street, John reflects on what is most important to him, creating the perfect space for the panda. He decides that creating a favorable environment for her to grow should be his priority. Once the ability of absolute sleep appears in his space, the panda will be able to train endlessly without getting tired, and all that remains for him is to eat well. However, John is worried that he may not have enough money to feed such a rapidly developing pet. John is confident that all the efforts are worth it to ensure that his little panda grows and develops. He sits on the floor, concentrating on conjuring over a glass, and the transformation of space is almost complete. Soon the panda will be living in a renovated house, remaining just as disciplined and productive. Tomorrow, John plans to train the intensity of hardening. In the morning, there is a knock at the door, and John rushes to open it. The courier brought steel plates. The guy sees off the movers, waving his hand at them. John calls the panda to test the new plates. But something is wrong here. John feels strange when calling his pet. This has never happened before. Panda appears before John wearing a red scarf, her fourth awakening transformation. The boy beams with joy as he admires his beast. The improved environment has worked. He is one step closer to his dream of becoming a beastmaster. The main character, jubilantly, promises to arrange a festive dinner for the panda. John tells his pet about new training equipment, because the panda will no longer be able to break everything. The panda suddenly turns around and John asks with a grin, does he really want to be hit with something heavier? The hero shows the panda new steel plates, assuring him that now he can hit them as much as he wants. He will not allow the yard to be destroyed. John adds that if training is not enough, the pet can stack the plates in several layers. He also reminds that the planet's gravity will help the panda if it decides to jump from the tree. Pointing to the roof of the house, John suggests it as an alternative to the tree for training. John punches his palm and tells the panda that he needs to use his hardened skill and jump. He calls it drop training, far more effective than just hitting him with a club. When a panda can jump from the clouds and still survive, he will be unrivaled. The panda hugs his owner's leg, admiring his genius. He himself would never have thought of this. A green silkworm peacefully eats leaves in its cage. Suddenly something scares him, and he can no longer think about food. The panda runs at great speed and hits the metal plate with a loud bang and incredible force. The slab breaks in half, and the animal stands there satisfied, as if nothing had happened. Then the panda notices a scratch on his paw that shouldn't have been there. He instantly uses the speed healing skill and everything returns to normal. Panda takes a new plate and continues training. John, sitting in the house, listens to the rumble outside, realizing that the panda has already reached the experienced level in his tempering skill. John finds steel plates to be a great aid in hardening training. In addition, it is also food for the panda because he can digest iron. The silkworm's skills have also improved. Its threads are now as strong as fishing line. The green silkworm is happy with its life and sees a great future in its improvement. Using the purchased drugs, John intensively trains both the panda and the silkworm for 10 days. Every time after using the reference book, John feels tired, similar to the fatigue after a workout. But as soon as he has a snack, his strength returns. Panda has awakened 5 times and can now temper any part of his body at will. The silkworm has reached the trained level and has awakened 4 times. John decided it was time to check their progress. He runs out of the house and yells at the panda to finish training, eat, and rest, because they will soon have a real battle. Panda bends the remains of the broken slab, not believing that a real battle will soon begin. Proper nutrition, training, and battles are important for his growth. What John and the panda need now is not lethal training, but fights with opponents of equal strength, with clear rules and in a safe environment. They avoid unsafe places where pets can be harmed. With the reference book, they have the opportunity to develop constantly. To become a professional beastmaster, John will not only have to pass theoretical and practical certification, but also a field survival test. John hadn't really thought about it before, but now he needs experience. He decides to take part in competitions organized by the Beastmasters Association, believing that it is better to turn to professionals. John enters the huge room, goes to the information desk, and asks for an explanation of how the battles work. The girl explains that their arena offers different fighting areas. You can choose a specific battle where the rules are agreed upon in advance with your opponent. To participate in a random battle, you need to fill in the data, after which the system will select an opponent. Enemies always match the pet's level. Then the girl names the cost of participation, and John is amazed. The amount turns out to be much higher than expected. He is outraged because with this money he could have eaten for 3 days. The girl explains that the price includes the rental of the sites and medical assistance, and the price is quite standard, and sometimes it is higher. Here the girl remembers about the bets. The loser pays the rent of the site not only for himself, but also for the winner. John is happy. If he and the panda win, they won't have to pay a penny. He quickly chooses the level of the fight and places a bet. The hero is confident that even if their opponent turns out to be stronger, they will not lose. The girl hands him a piece of paper and a pen, asking him to fill out a form. Excited by the opportunity to make money, John asks if he can place even more bets to take full advantage of the odds. The girl replies that bets outside the organization are none of their business. She hands John a piece of paper with a number on it and asks him to wait in the lobby until his name and opponent appear on the screen. The hero steps aside, noticing a blue-haired guy who is also signing a questionnaire for the battle. The guy leaves with his ice crocodile carrying several boxes. He is overconfident in his belief that his classmates are too weak to have any impact on the outcome of the battle. The blue-haired guy proudly declares that he is the best and will never lose. After some time, John is called to site number 11 for battles. The blue-haired guy is also invited to the same site. John approaches the court, confident that everything will be easy, as if it were a home game. He stands at the entrance, thinking that the coincidence of his pet's number and the site is a sign of a simple victory. Behind him appears the same blue-haired guy, also going to battle. Their gazes meet, and each one mentally asks himself, "Is this really my rival?" The site is ready. The stands are full of spectators. Everyone is eagerly awaiting the start. A man in a yellow cap enters the arena, announcing that he is the manager and judge of this fight. The boys stand opposite each other, looking warily at their opponent, until the referee announces that they have an hour to fight. The referee gives the signal that the fight can begin at any time. The opponents are ready to enter into battle immediately. John begins to cast spells, confident in his actions and determined not to lose. The protagonist summons his Beastmaster space, and a circle with an image of a panda lights up around his hand. A spinning ball appears with John's pet inside. The panda appears before him, radiating confidence and victory. The blue-haired guy also begins his spell, crossing his arms in front of him. A circle with an image of an ice crocodile flashes behind him. A block of ice appears out of nowhere, with his pet trapped inside. An ice-armored crocodile appears in front of the guy, ready to fight, just like the panda. People in the hall are watching the events on the battlefield with interest, pointing at the screens and noticing that this is another duel between newcomers. A girl from the crowd calls her friend to look at the screen because a fight is starting there. A lady in a suit similar to the one the blue-haired guy is wearing recognizes him as Edward. She says that this is her classmate and he is incredibly strong. The friend curiously asks who is stronger. The beast mistress replies that it is hard to say for sure, but there are only a few people in their class who can compete with Edward. The girl next to her notices that John also has a panda, like her. Edward's classmate, who has experience with pandas, bets that John will lose. She admits that she chose the panda only because it was cute. If she had a choice, she would have chosen another animal, as the panda is incredibly lazy and difficult to train. The blue-haired guy loudly gives the command to his pet to perform the move they had been practicing before the fight. The ice-armored crocodile instantly rushes forward, attacking the panda. The judge watches the fight closely and notes that the start is excellent. The pet is well trained. This is worthy of a student of a leading school. John puts his hand forward and loudly commands his pet. Panda instantly activates his hardening ability, protecting himself. The crocodile's icy claws slam into the panda's iron paws with force, but immediately break. The crocodile flies back, falls, and screams in pain. The panda, standing in a victorious pose, rejoices, pleased with his first small victory. Edward is in shock, not understanding how his icy claws failed. John, full of confidence, shouts at the panda to attack the enemy. The panda instantly jumps from its place and rushes towards the ice crocodile. Edward panics and orders his pet to immediately activate the ice armor. The crocodile immediately uses the skill in an attempt to defend itself. The panda's iron paw slams into the crocodile's ice armor with force, producing a powerful blow. The crocodile's ice armor crumbles into pieces. He is terrified. The panda's powerful blow sends the crocodile flying to the side. He crashes into the wall and Edward stands there in shock at what happened. Edward can't understand how his pet lost. John rejoices, thinking that if he had known about the panda's success, he would not have even fed him to raise his fighting spirit even higher. John didn't expect the fight to end so quickly. To truly assess the strength, you need to find a stronger opponent. The judge is shocked by the panda's strength and hardening skill, even though it's only a level 5 pet. The girl watching the fight can't believe that a panda is capable of mastering such a high level of skill. Edward's classmate thinks John is very talented and doubts that he is a newbie. She hopes that Edward will be able to cope with defeat with dignity. Edward takes the loss hard and thinks that his only place is at school. The panda waves his hand happily and smiles, thinking to himself, none of these people got up at 4 in the morning to break steel plates. The referee raises his hand and declares that the ice beast cannot continue the fight, so John is the winner. John sends his pet back to the Beastmaster's space. Edward, still unsure, asks if John is a student at the school, thinking he was just lucky. John calmly replies that he graduated from university and trained at an animal breeding facility. John's suburban education is not as high as his city education, but that doesn't stop him from winning, something Edward can't understand. The blue-haired boy muses that John may be the most brilliant Beastmaster he has ever met, and decides that he needs to try harder. Edward is confused as to why John has already graduated, since his own graduation is still a month away. The judge explains that the deadlines are different for combat specialty graduates, but for everyone else, it happens sooner. Edward realizes that John is not even a combat specialist graduate. The judge asks if his pet needs medical attention and reminds him to pay double the fee for losing. John quarrels with the girl at the reception, insisting on an opponent of a higher level. The girl explains that not everyone agrees to fight weaker opponents. She offers the arena if John has a friend willing to go up against him. John has no friends, especially none who would agree to fight. He decides to go to the association and says goodbye to the girl. The Beastmasters Association issues tasks, carefully selecting them for trainees, helping them earn experience and money. Money is not important to John now. The main thing is to find a worthy opponent for training. If this does not happen, you can look for other places to train the panda, because for its development, only the home is not enough. John realizes that repeating the same thing every day is the path to madness. After winning, he saw how happy his pet was, and now he is obliged to find him new challenges. He finds a mission to catch stray cats that have created a large gang of thieves. Given that supernatural beings have intelligence, such groups are real. But what they steal is still unclear. John realizes that the cat-catching mission is not suitable for his panda, and continues searching. There are many tasks, but none of them seem suitable for his pet. Most missions are created by people who want to hire beastmasters for routine, low-paying work. The task of catching locusts attracts John. There is no time to complete it, and supplies are needed constantly. However, The locust is fast and agile, and the panda's speed may not be enough. John understands that he will have to teach his pet the skill of supervision to cope with such an opponent. The iron-eating panda's immense strength combined with supervision will be a powerful advantage, greatly enhancing combat abilities. John finds a task to catch mice, but their fighting power is insignificant. Even an ordinary person can cope. The main problem is their rapid reproduction, movement, and aggregation, which makes them potentially dangerous. This is a long-term mission given to multiple beastmasters and can be used to train reflexes. John decides that this task is ideal for increasing the panda's speed, putting off endurance training for now. Suddenly, John notices Edward, whom he had recently fought. He waves happily and asks if his ice beast has recovered. Edward, still a little worried, replies that everything is fine. John asks if he came for assignments too. The blue-haired guy confirms and asks what task John took, assuming it was something well paid. John shows his mission and Edward is surprised, asking if he is going on it alone. The blue-haired guy explains that it is better to assemble a team for this mission, since these animals are very cunning, and it will be much easier to work in a team. Edward insistently offers to join John's team. The protagonist tries to evade, saying that it doesn't matter, but Edward finds a way out by offering to call 2 more people to complete the mission. John agrees to Edward's help, realizing that if the rats unite, the task will become too difficult for him alone. Edward says he will contact 2 classmates in the evening, and then they will have a team of 4 people. In fact, the blue-haired guy wants to get closer to John to learn his training secrets and understand how he turned a lazy panda into a real fighter. John goes into the store again for energy drinks. The saleswoman notes to herself that this is the 3rd time in 2 weeks that he has come for drinks. John admits to the saleswoman that training and fighting are becoming more frequent, and he has had poor health since childhood. The girl places his usual additions on the table. John eats the prepared food with gusto, and his panda enjoys the sweet bamboo. Suddenly, John turns around and calls out to the panda, intending to teach him a new skill. Panda is upset, thinking that strength depends only on his efforts, but for some reason he cannot utter a word in response. John teaches the panda the ultravision skill, which greatly increases the acuity of vision and allows the panda to see in the dark. To activate it, the panda will use spiritual power. The beast rubbed his eyes with a smile while John was tired from the training process. A curious panda leaves his home to test out a new skill. He sees in the dark as clearly as in the day, and this brings him joy. Now the panda will be able to train at night, compensating for his lack of diligence during the day. Now it takes 48 hours for the panda to recover its spiritual powers, and John hopes that his pet will not break the steel plates at night. He needs a good night's sleep. Meanwhile, Edward sits in his room, drinking tea and writing in the group, offering to go on a mouse-catching mission together. Suddenly, a classmate writes to him, mentioning that she saw him lose in the arena. Edward, in surprise, spits out his tea. He begins to panic that now all his classmates will find out about the defeat from the first person they meet. When they meet, Edward asks John if he got enough sleep. Noticing him yawning, John asks where his friends are, and the blue-haired guy confidently replies that they will appear soon. Suddenly, 2 familiar girls appear in front of them, Edward's classmate and her friend. They greet the guys. The guy quickly introduces everyone. This is Kate, his classmate. Her friend is Mary, the beastmaster from the experimental school. John smiles and waves at the girls, who greet him in unison and call him the expert. John is puzzled as to why he was called that. The blue-haired boy whispers in John's ear that the girls saw his battle yesterday as they passed by the arena. Edward invites everyone to introduce themselves and goes first. His pet is a level 6 ice-armored beast, capable of splitting ice with a roar and possessing ice armor. Kate continues. Her pet is a level 6 panda with a basic hardening skill. Mary also tells us that her pet is a level 6 thorn beast that is a master of the binding skill. It's John's turn. He describes his panda as a level 5, with the solidification skill mastered at a deep level. The boys are wary and doubt his words, sensing a catch. But John just smiles, thinking that once they see the 11th level abilities, everything will become clear. Edward is curious about what major John studied, since he has already graduated. John explains that his specialty is cultivation. He says that fighting is for brutes, and a skill as subtle as hardening requires a subtle approach. For a beastmaster who specializes in cultivation, this is an expected level of skill. Upon reaching their destination, they are met by a crowd of people waving happily and welcoming the foursome, ready to help in exterminating the rodents terrorizing the village. A man comes out of the crowd and hands each graduate a specialized uniform. The boys change their clothes and stand in the middle of the field, not knowing where to start. John suggests summoning pets, thinking that the ultravision skill would be useful in such circumstances. Mary and Edward summon their pets, the ice armor beast and the thorn beast. John and Kate also summon animals, or more precisely, two pandas. Panda Kate is significantly larger than John's 11th panda and looks at his pet with interest. Kate wonders if John feeds his panda steel bamboo, as his pet looks great, healthy and strong. The pink-haired girl tells of a bamboo martial arts palace where beast masters specializing in pandas are trained. The head teacher is a top-level beast master, and his panda wields lightning and fire. Kate admits that she thought John was a disciple of this palace, because his panda had reached a rare level of hardening that few achieve. The pink-haired girl's panda falls asleep while they discuss the owner of the center. The 11th interrupts everyone, loudly announcing that he has found a mouse. John and his panda simultaneously point out the exact location of the target. Edward checks with the device and notices that the mouse is level 4 and there is only one of it. He warns that they need to destroy it before it notices the guys and runs away. Mary reminds the mice that they are very alert. If other pets come close, the mouse will notice them. She orders her animal to get close to the target, hoping that it will be able to wrap itself around the mouse and neutralize it. The thorn beast approaches the mouse, who immediately freezes upon noticing him. Mary's pet tries to grab her, but the mouse desperately struggles to escape the trap. Her path is blocked by an armored ice crocodile like a wall. The red rat makes an incredible leap, jumping over the crocodile without stopping. A new obstacle lies ahead and frightens her. It's John's panda. He uses his skill and powerfully stomps the mouse into the ground. Mary's pet grabs the rat, preventing it from escaping. Everyone admires the panda's strength, comparing it to a huge tower. The graduates bring a rat to the head of the event, and he asks them to catch a whole flock since they managed to deal with one. Mary praises John because without him, the rat would have definitely escaped. John suggests splitting up to catch as many mice as possible and earn more money. Edward agrees. This way they will deal with the rats faster. The guys decide to meet at noon at the same place. The blue-haired guy clarifies, if you find one mouse, deal with it as you wish, but if you encounter a whole flock, call everyone. It's faster that way. Mary suggests that her friend beat the others in the number of mice, but Kate doubts that her panda can cope with such a number. The pink-haired girl notices that John's panda doesn't look like her pet at all. The main character sets a goal to catch 20 mice before lunch, but the panda overconfidently wants to catch 200. John says it doesn't matter how many they catch. The main thing is that the 11th one doesn't spoil the crops and trees. If a panda breaks something, not only will they not be paid, but they will also be forced to pay compensation, which will affect the animal's food supply. John asks the panda not to use hardening. Speed and reaction are more important today. 11th immediately springs into action, quickly collecting the mice one by one. The chief of the area is amazed by the panda's skills and can hardly believe that it is true. The panda is outraged that her owner did not teach her the skill of invisibility, because then she would catch mice much faster. The man recording how many rats 11 has caught asks him to slow down because he can't keep up with everything. A crowd gathers around John because the panda has been catching mice for 2 hours without stopping. The guy calms everyone down by explaining that his beast not only loves to eat, but also loves to practice. Edward notices that John's panda catches a mouse every 5 minutes and wonders where John gets so much strength from, since his panda never gets tired. The hero shows the blue-haired guy a tonic capsule, and everything becomes clear. Edward realizes that although others have greater abilities, no one puts in the work as much as John, and that is why everyone loses to him. The protagonist asks the boys how many mice they caught. Edward caught 7, and Mary caught 6. Kate looks sadly at the others and complains about her pet, calling all pandas stupid. 11th doesn't like that she generalizes all pandas. The man collecting mice is amazed that the panda caught 22 mice in 2 hours. He has never met such a useful pet. John takes out the food and invites everyone to join him for dinner. The graduates sit down to have a snack until the panda stops and continues catching mice. While John greedily devours his food, Kate notices that pandas are usually not so active, and this is strange. She has been looking for a pet for a long time, but has not found one as energetic as John's. Without looking up from his plate, John calmly asks how his panda could master the skill of hardening without extensive training. The boys agree with his logic, finding it reasonable. The protagonist begins to explain how everything actually works, when suddenly Edward jumps up, declaring that now he too will persistently train his pet. Mary supports him, promising to buy a tonic tomorrow and train her beast day and night. Edward has uncovered the secret of John's training and is now going to try it on himself, confident of success. The blue-haired guy asks John if he plans to participate in the certification of Beastmasters, and since his specialty is cultivation, will he take the test to become a mentor? John unexpectedly replies that despite specializing in cultivation, he wants to pass the test to become a warrior. Edward believes that in order to successfully pass the certification, pets must have outstanding fighting skills. However, reaching level 10 in 6 months is extremely difficult, so it is better to postpone participation until next time. John replies that if Edward doesn't pass the test now, they could try together next time. The guys are surprised by his optimism, because it is unlikely that he will be able to reach the required level in 6 months. John assures that he is not afraid of difficulties on the way to the level of excellence, and that the transition to the 10th level will not be a problem. If the protagonist fails to reach the required level, he will be able to choose a workaround. The guys ask if John means a special certification that allows them to skip levels. Edward realizes that John thinks much more deeply than he does, and realizes that he needs to increase the intensity of his pet's training. Suddenly, all four hear a strange sound. Suddenly, the loudspeaker starts warning about the approach of wild animals. People run away in panic in different directions as the number of wild animals behind the wall quickly increases. Edward and Mary are shocked by what is happening, not expecting such a threat. The mouse inspector warns that the situation is very dangerous and asks the boys to return back as soon as possible. Edward wonders what this signal means. The man is not sure, as this is the first time he encounters it. Perhaps these are disgruntled animals from the snowy mountains. But the signal is really serious. John tries to assess the situation soberly, convincing himself that there is no time to panic. Large walls have been erected around the villages. There are representatives of the Beastmasters Association working in the city district, and they are the main protection, so there may not be any real danger. If the animals really can break through the wall, then the warning should be much more serious. Edward offers to go and see the situation, but Kate refuses, claiming that her pet is too weak to fight. John thinks it's better to leave and come back later to catch the rodents. It's more important now to go to the association and find out what this signal means. The man at the reception replies that he himself doesn't really know about the signal, but this is not the first time in the last month. There was a blue warning twice before, and now it's yellow. Suddenly, another person appears and greets Kate and Edward. It is their teacher, Daniel. He explains that he was nearby, saw the guy's correspondence in the chat, and decided to come to find out what was going on. John watches the conversation and doesn't understand why these two are chatting in front of the teacher. Daniel asks who the other kids are, and Edward explains that they are his friends from other schools. The teacher asks whether the children's confusion is related to the warning, and they ask for more details. As he and the boys head out, John thinks that it is not safe to stay in the suburbs and that he needs to go into the city with his pet. The boys go outside, and Daniel begins his story about the alarm. He explains that the area around the snowy mountains is well guarded. If a threat does appear, the association will react quickly, and if there are not enough forces, the district beastmasters will be called. If these forces are not enough, visitors from neighboring cities will join in. Edward worries that the animals might rise up against humans again, but Daniel reassures him that it is just a small pack of wild animals. John adds his thoughts to the conversation, noting that the animals are better suited to the urban area, so they come here because of the competition and fight for food. While this may not be the main reason, animal attacks are still occurring and are not as unexpected as they were 10 years ago. Daniel agrees with John, but the reason why the animals are in conflict remains a mystery. The teacher says that perhaps the answer is hidden in the Ice City and asks the children if they know its history. The boys are eagerly awaiting Daniel's story about the Ice City. Daniel starts to tell that one day, an ice dragon came and froze all the mountains. The guys ask who won, and he answers that it was most likely the tribe living in these mountains. On one of the mountains are the remains of an ice dragon, and it is said that its bones are sealed inside. Perhaps this sealed dragon has turned into a spirit that summons the beasts on the snowy mountain. The boys are very scared when they hear about the existence of the dragon. This is what archaeologists managed to find. Perhaps the stone giant was the totem of that people. John suggests that the ancient lords used it to fight the dragon. Someone tells the protagonist that everything was wrong, and Edward, frightened, does not understand whose voice it is. John thinks it's the voice of the stone statue they were just standing next to. The guy is worried that he has gone crazy because the statue cannot speak. Mary, noticing his condition, worries about John and distracts him from his thoughts. He tries to hide the truth by claiming that he was simply looking at a beautiful statue. The boys didn't seem to hear the same thing as John. Losing himself in thought again, he realizes that the voice cannot come from the statue because it does not at all resemble a living being. John worries that the statue might have acquired a spirit and imagines running away from it. Daniel tells the guys that he still has things to do and it's time for him to leave. The teacher leaves, reassuring the graduates that the Beastmasters will be able to protect them in case of danger. Edward suggests continuing to catch mice, but John refuses. The main character also has important things to do and he needs to go. One of the guys offers them a snack, but John is in a hurry to leave. Edward realizes that he did not take contact from his new friend and now he will not be able to contact him. Returning home, John begins to study books that divide the history of the world into eras of myths, totems, and beastmasters. In the age of myths, according to legends, mythical creatures appeared that ruled this world. During the age of totems, humans emerged who tried to survive in territories controlled by more powerful beings. In the age of the overlords, humans began to domesticate animals, and John downloads information about the Overlords Alliance onto his computer. The history of the world of animal masters is divided into 3 stages, but there are many gaps in it. John was tired of searching for the information he needed, and unfortunately did not find what he was looking for. In his past life, he was an archaeologist, but for some reason he came across a mythical system and since then began to study mythology. Studying the mythical system with the teacher became his daily routine, and he immersed himself in research, but the mountain range collapsed, burying him alive. After an accident, John ended up in this body. The guy is disappointed and regrets that he did not choose a different path because curiosity destroys people. Now he finds himself in a dangerous world, and his only desire is to find a comfortable and safe place. John decides that he will live only for himself. Although there are many unknowns in the history of this world, it has its own system, and it will not return to the old path. At night, John returns to the statue, wanting to know what is really going on. The hero whispers, asking if he spoke to him during the day. He asks whether the statue refuted the man's words. The statue remains silent and unresponsive, and John threatens to leave. The hero doesn't know what story is hidden behind all this, and this only fuels his interest. John sincerely wants to know the true story. The boy yells at the statue, demanding that it tell the truth. Suddenly, the statue's eyes begin to glow and the ground around it shakes. John is at a loss. The face of the sculpture cracks and rays of light burst out from the cracks. John looks at the statue with horror, realizing that something has happened. The sculpture breaks into small pieces. Dust and fragments fly in all directions, and a bright purple beam of light bursts out from the center of the structure. John is in a panic and worries about his actions because he came to the statue out of curiosity. He runs away from the scene in fear. People are panicking, thinking that animals are attacking the city, and they don't understand why there is no news. Passers-by try not to get worked up, assuming that this is just social unrest. The secretary enters the chairman's office and asks what happened, noting that other regions also sensed something was wrong. The chairman himself doesn't know. If everything is as he thinks, then there's nothing to worry about. John feeds his panda in fear, hoping that it will grow faster and become stronger to protect them both. It seems that 11th is only happy about this because he loves to eat. The protagonist regrets the destruction of the statue and decides to stay home until he finds out what really happened. John feeds not only the panda, but also his second pet, the silkworm. The next day, he makes his little insect train with the panda. Silkworm threads can be used as arrows, but so far it cannot even pierce clothing. Panda and the little pet train together. 11 works on speed, and the silkworm tries to shoot its threads. The main character supports his animals, and during their training he goes off to get food. People are worried about the noise at night. No one knows what it was, and the Association of Rulers is closed today. John hopes that no one will investigate the destroyed statue and find him. The chances are slim, because there are no cameras in this world, and there was no one near him at that moment. He decides that until he finds out what's going on, he won't go anywhere and confess, and the safest way is to play dumb. The beam of light activated by him opens up a secret ancient space. Suddenly, someone says that they have already tried to solve the mystery of the ice dragon's remains, but nothing worked. There is still too little information to find out the truth. Perhaps they will learn something new here. A gray-haired man informs the Inquirer that a stone statue has been destroyed in the garden of the Beastmasters Association. It seems that this space did not appear by chance. Someone disturbed the scar of history. The girl does not understand. Perhaps some gifted person has appeared again. who heard the voice of history, but does not know who it is. 4 days later, the panda has reached new levels. Healing at the expert level, ultravision and hardening have also reached a new level. John is very eager to see if 11th can defeat the enemy soldier at the 5th level of awakening. The protagonist decides to continue improving his beasts and heads to a tonic shop. The shop assistant tells him that yesterday, a student bought several boxes of tonic at a pharmacy in the south of the city. The guy is surprised and suggests that it could have been Edward. Suddenly, John decides to find out important information, pretends that he is not involved in the incidents, and asks why the Beastmasters Association is closed, and whether the cause of the strange rumble has been found out. The seller praises John, saying that he doesn't know the details yet, but there is a possibility that their city could blow up. John raises an eyebrow and looks at the man with confusion, asking for more details. The salesman informs him that there are rumors of a secret space appearing. He explains that it is like another world that exists outside of their reality. Their planet of the Beast Masters was originally a secret space. There is a theory that when all the Beast Masters die, they too will turn into a secret space. However, after the death of powerful Beast Masters, their space may remain, as something like a small world is formed from the consciousness of the Master. The space was formed from the consciousness of the ancient ruler, but compared to him, their level was minimal but legendary. If a secret space does open up, there may be a lot of rare resources and pets there, giving you the opportunity to make a big profit. John realizes that the destruction of the stone statue is not so scary, and he has many questions about the secrets of this world. He believes that he should not approach this space and explore it, as it could be very dangerous. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by a sharp knock on the door. A man stands on the threshold, announcing that public assistance has arrived. When no one answers their knock, they decide to break down the door, and John panics and screams at them not to do it. John is very worried that people found out that he destroyed the stone giant. Opening the door, he finds the girl who was recently at the secret space asking questions. She summons her pet in the form of a lion. The girl introduces herself. Her name is Louise. She is a doctor of archaeology at the capital's university and a member of the Association of Archaeological Research. She came to find out information from the main character. John invites Louise inside, also introducing himself and telling her that he doesn't work anywhere, but wants to become a beastmaster. Louise walks into the backyard and looks around. The panda and the silkworm are hiding behind a pot, looking at the visitor with fear. She asks John if he was involved with the destruction of the statue at the Overlords Association, and if he heard a voice coming from it. 11th looks angrily at his pet lion, who smiles sweetly in response. Louise explains that the statue is not alive, but the protagonist has the gift of telepathy, which can manifest itself not only in living beings. Some non-living creatures that come into contact with feelings can gain a soul, and this can only be heard by those with telepathy. Hearing a voice is a very rare gift throughout history. Many facts are lost during destruction, but people with telepathy can help restore them. The remaining traces of history have supernatural powers and are very difficult to destroy. People with telepathy have a much easier time finding a way to overcome this defense. John touched the soul of the statue and caused traces of antiquity to appear, possibly containing information about the ice spring. Since the protagonist has a gift, Louise considers him a natural-born archaeologist and invites him to go somewhere. John is furious, because in his past life he was also an archaeologist and paid for his curiosity. John's dreams are to raise pandas, make money, find true love, get a cat, and move to a quiet city for a peaceful life. He tells Louise that he is not interested in archaeology, and he does not intend to join any association or work at the university. As they speak, the silkworm, panda, and lion become great friends, playing with each other and communicating verbally. The girl asks him not to rush to conclusions, reminding him that there are only 11 people in the entire country with his talent. Louise kneels down to watch the animals, and John muses that telepathic beings are even rarer than legendary-level overlords and totem-level beings. He suggests that if the gift is so rare, then it must be well received by the group, and John ultimately agrees to accept the agreement. The guy still decides to ask where he is invited, and on what terms. Louise replies that if he becomes a legendary-level overlord, he will not find such good terms. John is happy about this news because perhaps the legendary-level lords will become his bodyguards. This is to his advantage. A dead archaeologist from a past life succeeds in a new one, and the main character becomes a member of a very cool group. There will be no obligations at work. The structure is very simple. Everyone has a lot of freedom of action and will be able to make decisions independently without pressure. The main character is delighted that he will be able to make decisions independently and will not have to travel to dangerous places and risk his life, which means he will be able to use any resources, materials, and security. This is the Bureau for Research of Historical Monuments of the State and their Protection. According to the numbering, it is called the 11th Bureau. This group includes special people in the field of archaeological research and is engaged in special research of ancient monuments. John notices that the number 11 appears everywhere and, despite his doubts, agrees to the job. Louise is also a member of the group, which, considering the two of them, consists of 11 people. The girl congratulates John, saying that from this day on he becomes a reserve member of the Bureau. She explains that in order to officially join the group, one must pass the certification. Besides, the guy is still too weak. The group can provide $10,000 for initial expenses, and the main goal is to reach the specialist level as soon as possible and gain knowledge of archaeological research. The main character is ready to do anything for money, which is more important to him than personal security. All the animals are smiling. With this amount of money, John will definitely be able to feed his pets. Tomorrow, he will receive his ID and money. But Louise advises him not to disclose information about his membership in the 11th Bureau. Otherwise, foreign intelligence agents may discover him. She adds that when John becomes an official member of the Bureau, she will be his contact with the group. Suddenly, John realizes that many will want to eliminate those who can unravel the secrets of the historical trace, and he is still so weak. Louise explains that the assignment for the assessment is to find out the truth about the history of the city. There is no time limit, and once he finishes, he will immediately become a member of the group. Even someone who can hear the voice of history cannot catch everything. Some kind of push is definitely needed, and this task is perfect for John. Joyfully, the protagonist asks if he can get in touch with that secret space. Even if he doesn't use the privileges of a Bureau member, he can still enter the secret space. Louise offers him one of the techniques as a gift, either for the silkworm or the panda. She wonders if 11 is his first pet. He probably has no contact with the silkworm, and it is considered a wild beast despite its excellent development. The girl activates the cheat for the skills, and John is happy, because he's given a gift in addition to money. John looks at his pet for approval, and wonders if it is right to accept so many gifts, since there is no reward without effort. He thinks about who would be best to give the new skill to. He doesn't want to part with the silkworm, but it seems like this is the best option. If the insect becomes stronger, it will be able to bring even more benefits, and John dreams of an animal of high origin. Just in case, he asks if it is possible to choose both options, because it is difficult for him to make the right decision. He explains that he wants to become strong and help archaeologists. Louise, surprised by his impudence, nevertheless agrees, writing it off as an advance payment. For now, John can only make a contract with one pet. When he becomes a basic level overlord, he will be allowed to have 2 contracts, but this will not be enough to make a contract with a highborn pet. He will not be able to support the rapid growth of such a pet. John agrees because he can't handle another pet now. The girl promises to recommend him to the bamboo and stone yard to find a suitable skill for the panda. Everything works out as he expected. He gets a mentor, and a rational curriculum turns out to be much better than just copying. Louise asks if he plans to make a contract with the silkworm when it becomes a crystal butterfly. John replies that the regular green silkworms are some of the strongest and most flexible pets, so he decided to try raising one. It is already known that these insects can evolve into many species. Silkworms are capable of changing completely, and there are different approaches to their cultivation for this. They can become moths or butterflies, and several dozen species are already known. Almost all scientists involved in the development of pets choose silkworms as the first object of research, since their development time is short, and what emerges from the cocoon is like a lottery ticket. Louise says that she knows 3 ways to develop the commander level. The guy will be able to choose one of them when the silkworm grows up. Its strength can even surpass that of a panda, which will be very convenient if it becomes a second pet. The development methods are divided into 3 levels of commander: lower, middle, and higher. The conditions for each level vary in complexity. The first method is a low-ranking ice sailboat, which has the properties of wind and ice. Its most powerful skill is creating a snowstorm. The next method is a mid-rank demon butterfly that belongs to the element of darkness. It is strong in curses and surprise attacks. The last method is a top-rank light fairy butterfly that has the element of light. It can control light and is very good at magic. In addition to special raw materials and feed for the growth of these species, before the silkworm enters the cocoon stage, its ability to weave threads must reach the experienced level. This will help to reveal the silkworm's potential to the maximum. However, it is difficult to train a silkworm to such a level. It is not worth forcing it, because lifespan and talent have their limits. John wonders, if it is difficult for a silkworm to reach the level of fine, how much more difficult will it be to reach the level of perfect? But if it does reach that level, then perhaps its potential will be revealed to its full 200%. Louise explains that if John finds a suitable secret space to develop, he will spend a lot of effort on training, and perhaps he will be able to bring the silkworm to the required level before it turns into a cocoon. Or he can first reach the legendary level and then work on the silkworm. There is no price-quality ratio to speak of here. She also mentions that the quality of the threads does not always increase as you level up. In order to destroy the cocoon, the silkworm needs to awaken a new species skill that will help it cope with this task. And to develop these skills before creating the cocoon, John must provide it with the appropriate raw materials. He thinks that if he trains the insect with the necessary skills, it will be able to break its cocoon. The guy decides that he will use his own approach. He will not follow science. Now he understands those researchers who like to come up with new ways of growing. John believes that he will develop into a light fairy butterfly, but he may not be able to do this. First, he needs to study the information about the food. Louise says that due to the choice of rank, the difficulty level varies, so it is imperative to be well prepared for the silkworm transformation. She gives the protagonist a detailed guide on how to develop a silkworm and asks him to study it thoroughly before getting started. In order to grow a fairy butterfly of light, you must have the skill of weaving threads at the experienced level and above. As bait, you need to use unripe light heart, ripe sunflower petals, luminescent seed, glowing mushrooms, daylight stone powder, ripe sparkling grass. Following the recipe, you need to mix all the ingredients to create a cocoon. After 30 days, the rainbow light skill will awaken in the cocoon. The cocoon will collapse, and a fairy butterfly of light will appear from it. Louise encourages her new group member by suggesting that he give it a try. He thinks that all this raw material will cost him a very large sum, so he decides to choose some other way of development. The main character gives the manual back to the girl. If his method doesn't work, then he'll have to turn to this one. Louise waves her hand and says goodbye to the guy, saying that he managed to develop his pets well. Although John did not want to return to his previous profession, if he had not been born for it, he would not have heard the statue's voice. He decides not to think about it, since he will have money tomorrow. Then today he can spend everything else. Arriving at the store, the main character tells the sales assistant about his desire to buy a phone, and then she asks him to tell her more. John explains that he needs a phone with internet access, an energy meter, and a pet reference book. Looking at the new gadget, I think that in appearance it is no different from the phones from my past world, but there are still differences in functions. When you point the phone at an object, the phone immediately recognizes the mechanical dog. The gadget gives a brief description of the dog's abilities, ranks, elements, name, and gives brief information. The main character admires the animal's functionality, but unfortunately, he will not be able to copy its skills because his pets are not able to use these abilities. The phone can detect not only energy fluctuations, but even the level of development of the mechanical dog. Although becoming a first-class beastmaster is not an easy task, this phone will do half the job. The guy assesses the situation. The gadget is good, but very expensive. If he buys it now, there will be no money left, and if Louise does not send money, there will be nothing to feed the 11th. In the end, he breaks down and buys this phone, justifying himself by saying that if the girl gave him a way to develop, then she will give him money too. As John leaves the store, he thinks that the 11th one will be enough. Bamboo for another month, although he likes to eat it, but you can buy something better. Arriving at the place where raw materials are sold, the main character immediately takes out his phone and scans the steel tree. Judging by the name, there should be metallic minerals there. It's like a plant with a filling, just right for a panda. Belongs to the element of wood and gold. Enhances the panda's ability to harden and gives vitality. This raw material is much more nutritious than steel bamboo. Usually, it is given as food only to pandas of supernatural level, otherwise you can overfeed. But the 11th spends so much energy, it is unlikely that the main character will be able to overfeed him, although he eats several times more than he should, but he also trains very hard. Arriving home, John lies down on the bed, finishing the registration on the phone. Now he will be able to read the news of the Beastmasters Association. The main character thinks that the silkworm still has enough food, so when he was in the store, he did not buy any. Suddenly, he sees a message on his phone inviting him to investigate the trace of antiquity. For this, he needs to pass the certification in combat skills. The guy jumps out of bed, shouting that he can't go inside the secret space. Maybe there are only wild animals there and nothing valuable. Perhaps I only use people as cannon fodder because if you need to pass a test for combat skills, then it's definitely dangerous inside. Suddenly, a panda and a silkworm enter the room. They look exhausted and want to eat. John announces that they will have a feast today, so he will head off to prepare food. While cooking, he thinks about how time passed very quickly with the phone in his hands, so much so that it had already gotten dark outside. Having finished cooking, the main character put the dishes on the table and called his pets. They are waiting with drooling mouths for the dinner to begin. Before they could blink, all three of them had eaten their meals, and the boy told the animals to eat their fill, because they would soon be going to combat skills training. When asked if the animals were happy, the panda shows his class and smiles slyly. John reflects on the fact that all the training they had did not help to reveal the potential of the 11th. Only the demonic lion, Louise's pet, will help the panda in training. The evaluation criterion for the certification is what kind of beast the Lord managed to defeat or what kind of valuable materials you managed to collect. So they go there to try their hand. In the morning, Louise comes with money, a recommendation for skills, and a certificate with which John will be able to explore most of the traces of antiquity. The girl asks to go to the remains of the ice dragon on the mountain only when the main character reaches the level of a specialist. Otherwise, he may freeze. She also adds that the guy can request security to explore the snow mountain, but unfortunately, he can't go into the secret space. John asks to tell more about what is in the secret space. Louise begins to tell that the secret space, it used to be the space of the Beastmaster to begin with. This space is very unstable. According to the results of the experiment, only the disciple masters can enter calmly if the master's level is high. Then the space and the trace of antiquity give rise to a reaction of rejection. Of course, people can exploit it by force, but it is very easy to bring the space to destruction, and then there will be more damage than benefit. In the end, the most precious thing is the trace of antiquity itself. And then, this trace of antiquity was a battlefield. Probably that ruler changed it, and now it is needed for hardening. The rulers of the new generation of his tribe after the ruler gets inside. He finds himself in a separate space that no one else can enter. Within that environment, creatures arise, and only by defeating them can one move on to the next separate space. According to the people who came out of there, the main task of the creatures is to defeat the enemy, but not to kill him. But if the fighter is too weak, then there is a risk. The girl sends a link to a website with products for raising pets. She believes that John will soon become a specialist. Louise reminds that the main target now is the secret space, not the ice dragon. Although the main character can enter the secret space with an ID, he still decides that it is better to undergo a special certification to understand whether he can survive in the secret space. He decides that it is not worth the risk, since there is still a chance of dying. As she leaves, Louise thinks that as soon as John joins their group, he will definitely become her assistant, and later, the master of the beasts. After the girl leaves, the main character is left to rely only on himself. In John's past life, the study of antiquity was not highly valued, but in this world it is the key to unraveling totems and magical creatures, although he got into archaeology again. But just a few months later, he is already a member of such a cool group. In his new life, the guy was able to achieve much more. Suddenly, the panda starts screaming loudly. The silkworm also comes running to the noise. Apparently, it has grown again. Since John started feeding the 11th steel bamboo, it has grown considerably in size and is now in its fastest growing period. He brings his panda another portion of food, offering it to eat with a smile on his face. The main character takes out his new gadget and looks at the animals. They grow faster than regular pets. The speed of skill development among them also exceeds the speed of other pets. John is interested in what the result of the certification will be if he takes these guys with him. Arriving for certification, he is very surprised by the huge number of people who came. People are talking all around about how they have never seen so many people sign up for certification. The assistant girl tells the date and time of arrival at the place. The main character thanks her. 3 days later, on a clear and sunny day, people of all ages gathered at the site to try themselves out. Suddenly, John turns to the man calling his name and sees a familiar silhouette. It turned out to be Edward. He looks very tired and exhausted. The guy is scared of him. He is surprised by the circles under his eyes. Apparently, he really did start swallowing tonics like candy. Many students from Edward's school also came to the assessment because they were promised a reward for passing it. He says that after they left, the statue fell apart, but John knows it was his doing. The main character says that the blue-haired guy should save his strength because he apparently works very hard, but Edward is 100% confident in himself. The teacher let it slip that only 1/5 of the students would pass this test. Edward is very worried about the test. He is not sure that he can handle it. If the panda managed to jump above his head, then the ice shell one can do it too. Edward asks if this is the first time the protagonist has participated in such an event, and he agrees, since he specializes in growing. The blue-haired guy begins to worry even more because of the information he received. John asks if Mary and Kate have arrived, but unfortunately they are not here. Edward waves at him and runs off to join his classmates. The guy pays attention to the people standing next to him. These are either invited rulers or a real army. All army training is paid for by the association. The conditions are not bad. If it weren't for the tough training, then perhaps John could also become part of the army. A man in a special uniform blows a whistle, ordering everyone to calm down. He asks everyone present to sign a safety declaration, and in the meantime, he will tell you all the most important things about certification. The man's name is Chuck. He is responsible for conducting the certification. Besides him, there are also 4 overlords responsible for security. On the mountain of heavenly people, there are not only many animals, but also rare resources. All of them are recorded in the directory. Each type is assigned a special number of points. A device for calling for help will be installed at the entrance. All trophies will be given to the special service officers. They will count the results. The main task is to score as many points as possible within 3 days. The first 20 people will get the opportunity to get into the secret space. The high-ranking Beastmasters give their comments. They would also like to return as disciples to get to this place. John opens the reference book, thinking about the names of the animals listed in it. A python, which is not worth hunting, is worth 4,000 points, which is equivalent to 200 shrews. A python bite can drive you crazy, but if you do it to perfection, you might be able to turn it all to your advantage. There is also an electric licker on the field. They are very dangerous, and for catching them, there is also a chance to earn 4,000 points. The main character understands that the animals were brought from other countries. A lot of money was probably invested in this event. Slime has a multiplication skill that allows it to change its body size. John understands that he really needs to get this ability. If this beast is in their country, then he cannot miss such an opportunity. Chuck shouts that the certification will begin in half an hour, and in the meantime, people can go to nearby stores and stock up on food and tonics. It's good that there is time to buy equipment. The main character can choose everything he needs. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Edward appears, interrupting John's thoughts. He suggests teaming up to catch the python, but the guy isn't sure if it can be done. The blue-haired student says that there are no demands regarding this, but John still refuses. It seems to him that he can achieve greater results alone than with these guys. The certification time has begun. Climb the mountain from 4 entrances. Mechanical birds fly across the sky. They are designed to keep an eye on the animals that are worth 4,000 points, and participants should not approach them. John calls the 11th, who is in full battle mode. To reach the magnetic iron ore mountain region, one must cross a flight of wild pigs. On the way, they meet a fanged wild pig, very aggressively disposed. The panda and the main character are pleasantly pleased with the find because they are going to defeat everyone. The pet immediately prepares for battle, intending to run after its opponent, a mid-rank skill that activates expert-level ultravision. The 11th one quickly jumps, hitting the boar over and over again, causing more damage to the beast. After the panda finished off the wild pig, the silkworm wrapped it in a hard cocoon, earning them 350 points. John thinks that if his blue-haired friend had fought this animal, he would have spent much more time. The boy hands the silk thread to the panda, who admires the fact that his master was able to turn even a fight into training. Those watching the event are very surprised by the abilities of the main character. He is the first one to deal with the beast, and he did it so easily. Seeing 4 more wild pigs on the way, the guy offers his pet to deal with them. The guards are shocked because the master's panda, at the level of a disciple, attacked 4 boars at once. Even if the pet was at the 10th level, it would hardly have been able to win. The wild pigs themselves are shocked that one of the pets decided to attack them. The 11th one teases them. A herd of wild boars runs towards the panda, but the panda is confident in his own victory. He activates hardening. This is an experienced level, and the whole body is involved in it. The men are shocked by what they see. They don't believe their own eyes. If John is a student, then he can't have more than 1 pet, which is where the green silkworm came from with them. The guy says that the catch of 5 pigs is quite good. They already have 1750 points. The panda tells his owner that he is very tired, and he agrees to sit down and rest, giving his pet some delicious food. The main character opens the map, plotting a route and explaining it to the panda. Suddenly, a loud cry for help is heard from the forest. Even the birds fly away in different directions. The guy runs towards the scream. Apparently, another ruler screamed when he met wild pigs. The boys are running from a herd of 10 pigs, shouting to those who came to help them to quickly hide in the trees and save themselves. They ask John why he doesn't run, but he wonders if the 11th one can handle the pigs, thereby increasing his effectiveness. A panda appears behind the main character, dragging 5 wild pigs behind him. They show the wild boars that it is better not to approach them, because they have killed many of their relatives. The pigs immediately run away from the guy they met. John and these guys came in from the same entrance. Very little time has passed since that moment. The guy explains that they should find a lone pig and surround it. There is no need to go deep into the forest. The trophies need to be left somewhere and they need to rest, so the heroes come to a safe place. People all around are amazed at how the guy was able to catch so many pigs on his own. The panda likes the attention he receives, so he beams with joy and waves to all the rulers. The participants are seriously injured. There is even a healing pet at this point. The main thing is that people do not die, but can be cured. One of the people watching John comes out to him with a cart, offering to help him record the points. But the guy asks if he can roast the pigs to eat. The man says that you have to spend a lot of time working with the meat, even though it is very tasty. The main character breaks into first place in the ranking among all those who came for certification. While scanning the captured animals, the guard thinks that in all his training, he has never seen such skills in pandas. He decides to tell his teacher about the guy he met at work. The teacher grins when he hears a familiar voice. The man leaves his studies and goes to work in the security service. He is shocked by what he heard. Even an experienced panda master has never heard of such a case, because it is almost impossible. The teacher remembers that Louise came to him for skills for the panda. He checks the sources. John got the panda a month ago and has already developed such abilities in it. The man asks if the protagonist is a disciple of the bamboo and stone palace. The teacher suggests sending the boy to a mountain with more dangerous animals. Perhaps he will become a student of this palace. A man approaches the hero, offering him to go to the mountain. The guy thinks that there is good food for the panda there. The guard tells that he was a student of the bamboo and stone palace, which is where his interest lies. He explains that in order for the panda to control lightning, he needs to eat special food. But John doesn't understand why he's telling him all this. In order for a pet to master skills beyond race, special cultivation methods are needed, and food is an important component, but electric ore alone is not enough. Otherwise, it would not be a secret of the bamboo and stone palace. The man says that if the protagonist would like to study in his palace, he needs to train in an area with magnetic iron ore. If he feeds the panda ore, it will be continuously hit with electricity, and this is the basis for training and mastering the skill of controlling lightning. John had wanted to go to that area anyway, and now he had good reasons to do so. He calls his pet, telling him that he will soon receive a treat. The panda is terribly happy to hear this word. They happily head off to their next workout, and people wonder where they get all that energy from. A guy and his pet walk through the gorgeous scenery of the certification forest, passing a bridge. There was a warning that the magnetic field in this area was having a strong effect on the overlords. Suddenly, the panda notices something off to the side. They discover crystalline ore, which appears to be what they are looking for. The main character offers his pet to eat a stone, but he becomes indignant, because if he eats it, his stomach will hurt, and this will have a bad effect on his training. The guy reassures the 11th that in order to eat electric ore, you need the skill of hardening at the experienced level. Just by touching these crystals, the panda is struck by a huge electric discharge. The pet, holding a stone in his hands, offers the owner to try it first, who continues to calm him down. He takes a piece of electrical crystals into his mouth with a vengeance. After swallowing the pieces of ore, the 11th suddenly realizes that they can actually be eaten. After eating all the crystals, the pet jumps around John, screaming that it wants more. After the panda eats a large amount of electric ore, he will be able to deal with electric discharges and will receive the gift of accumulating electric energy. If there had been fire or frost ore here, the panda would have been able to master other elements as well. If the hardening level reaches the ideal level and the lightning element skill is added to it, the 11th will become a real electromagnetic cannon. On the way, the heroes encounter an electric scorpion that has absorbed lightning from the ore. He assumes a fighting stance, stands on his hind legs and prepares to attack. 11th heads towards his rival. He's not the only one who wants to eat the ore on this mountain. The panda grabs the scorpion by one of its legs and begins to spin it in all directions. Those watching him do not understand what is happening. Apparently, the heroes have decided to capture the mountain. This member clearly doesn't care about such measly points. His target is level 10 creatures. This panda is very strong. It is quite unusual. The creatures in the mountainous area are 3 electric lickers brought from abroad. The organizer of the certification is not sure that the guys will be able to cope with them, but it will not be difficult to escape. The slimes move very smoothly. Anyone who could pass the high school standards can easily run away from the slime. But if they do manage to defeat the slime, they will pay a hefty price, because the slime's main skill is an electric strike. It is famous for its penetrating ability. Its level is 4 levels higher. The organizer orders to continue observation, but suddenly one of the overlords reports that they have already found an electric liquor. As John runs after his own pet, he shouts that it has remembered the smell of electric ore. Now he will be able to look for the rest. Suddenly, on the way they come across an electric liquor, which the boys have been looking for so long. They are happy about the find, although the fight promises to be difficult. The main character orders the panda to grab the enemy and take all his electricity. It's like the main boss in the game. If he exhausts him, they won't be able to defeat him. The 11th immediately takes off, heading towards his opponent. The creature looks scary. Apparently the panda won't be able to eat it like ore. Those watching the cameras notice that the panda is wearing dielectric gloves, which surprises them greatly. They assume that the guys will defeat the electric liquor, but the organizer says that it is not that simple, and they are simply underestimating the beast. The panda tries to hold back his opponent's attacks. His face shows a lot of fatigue and fear. The beast has become bigger. The protagonist orders the pet to use the skill for hardening. 11th tenses his entire body, becoming an iron puppet, and with great effort he pushes the electric liquor to the side. The crippled animal squats down, confidently looking at the defeated enemy. The organizer of the certification assumes that both competitors will suffer, although the liquor is strong and exhausted. But the panda can't stand it either. Suddenly the pet begins to recover, using its healing skills. Lizun prepares to attack the panda again, but he quickly rushes forward. The main character orders him to praise his rival and squeeze him out like a lemon. The panda copes with this difficult task, bringing his catch to the master. Since the panda doesn't need electricity, the boy only copies the multiplication skill. The observers look at the cameras, wondering why, if the main character has not yet defeated the enemy, he is mocking him. The organizer asks if this guy is really a student because he looks quite scary. John thinks that there is enough of the ore they need in the area to feed his pet, and they will take the rest. By developing the power of the lightning element and the healing skill, the panda will be able to quickly recover from electric shocks. Let the 11th use the widow's electricity in their training. The main character tells his pet that they will rest in this place at night, eat now, and then try a new training method. The man who suggested the boy to go to the mountain thinks that he did not expect such an outcome of events, that the hero would use the slime as a training tool. The next day, the boys caught all 3 creatures. With the dielectric gloves and the skills of the 11th, it was not difficult. You just have to not give them too much food, so that their abilities and the level of electricity they produce remain at a relatively low level. They will not be able to attack back, but will generate energy for the pet like generators. Panda's skill increases to mid-level skill, Thunderpalm. John is very surprised by this, because his pet himself mastered the skill of Thunderpalm. The guys run back to the guy who sent them to the mountain to find out more information. The men are very surprised by what they see. Because only 1 day has passed, it is impossible to awaken the talent of the lightning element in a panda so quickly. In theory, even if you feed on ore and receive electric charges, you can't easily master this element. Otherwise, there would be many more pandas in the bamboo and stone palace who own the Thunderpalm. Even though he saw the guys training on camera, it was still impossible to achieve such results in such a short period of time. Not only did the training efficiency increase, but some kind of unusual reaction also arose between the two, causing the panda to increase his speed even more. When the electrical energy accumulates to the point that it causes a paralytic effect, this is when the power of the thunder palm is at its greatest. The main character thought that in order for his pet to master this skill, he would need to go to study at the palace. But he was able to master it himself, and this surprises everyone. Apparently, there is some special connection between different skills. After learning one skill, mastering another becomes much easier. John asks the guard to write down their scores for the slime, and the guard asks if the guy will go up the mountain to the magnetic iron ore area again. The guy opens his bag, revealing a huge amount of electrical ore. He reports that there are no more resources left for the mountain. The guard calls his teacher to report the protagonist's progress. He says that the guy went to the mountain to train with his pet. The man tells everything in detail, but the teachers think he's just joking. The boy tells his panda that they need to find nutritious food for the silkworm because he has been with them for the past 2 days, but has not eaten anything. He helped them a lot. He tried so hard he needs to be rewarded. The food that the main character prepared for his second pet will be needed only later, and the rest of the time you need to feed it something simple. Only at the stage of transformation of the silkworm will there be the greatest chance of mastering new skills. The guy is thinking about how to raise his insect. Maybe it will become an ice phoenix butterfly, and from the lowest level, it will move up to the level of the most valuable pet in the state. You can also choose a rare element for him if it suits him. For example, an element of space or an element in time. There is no point in thinking about different paths of development now, because the most important thing now is skills and food. It is also too early to think about quality food. First, you need to grow the silkworm to the highest level. In this forest, you can find dragon whiskers, a level 1 spiritual plant called. So because it looks like a dragon, it is the favorite food of pets with the ability to create threads. This herb makes the thread even stronger and sharper. Suddenly, on the way of the children, following food for a little friend, they meet an unknown creature. They stop near the dragon's whiskers, looking at the plant with interest. Suddenly, a huge spider shoots its web in their direction. The 11th one gets entangled in the tenacious material, and in panic he shouts to the master to be careful. The panda is trapped by a terrible beast, which, smiling slyly, pulls its victim closer to itself. John orders him to quickly activate the hardening, cutting the web with steel wool. Confidence appears in the panda's eyes. He is going to defeat the enemy. The animal abruptly breaks the spider's threads, breaking free from the trap. The boy orders the pet to use the gram palm, which is a new skill for him. The 11th immediately follows the order. Suddenly, one of the spider's legs removes the animal in response, causing it to fly off to the side. The panda lands above the ground, leaving a trail of skidding behind him. Apparently, he still doesn't have enough strength. The protagonist says that it is necessary to find the right moment and throw the spider away. He gives the necessary instructions to him and sends him further into battle. The wild beast again sprays its web at the enemy, who dodges it. Suddenly, the 11th one grabs a stream of web with his paws. After this, he begins to quickly spin the spider in all directions with it, hitting it hard on the ground. After this, John tells him to use the skills of full hardening and thunder palm. Panda activates the gram palm with both paws, and then makes a rotation of force from his body, after which he should shoot directly at the opponent. The main characters watch what is happening from the sidelines, happy that the opponent has been defeated. It seems like the 11th level's combat strength is now even higher than that level 10 wild beast. There are probably still plenty of arachnids in the surrounding area, so it's best to find out in advance how they might react. The pet jubilantly raises his hand and smiles widely, enjoying the victory. The guy is still in first place among all the overlords. 4 level 10 creatures, 5 boars, and also a huge amount of resources, a total of 2,000 points. Electric birds fly across the sky, conveying important information to the participants. The 3-day certification has been successfully completed. Security personnel will lead everyone off the mountain in order of priority. The weaker beast masters are glad that the assessment is over, because they are already tired of eating only fruits. Some people run to wash themselves, while others are upset by the large number of mosquito bites. Only John thinks that they worked hard. He will spend part of the winnings on something for himself. For example, he will buy tonics of the highest quality. People panic, having learned that only 73 people out of 100 made it to the end. They had to stop the certification because of the injuries they received. The certification organizers shout that since people are standing here, it means they are capable of something, because this training zone was created by people. If they failed here, what can we say about the memory of old times? And we shouldn't even think about participating in certification for a specialty. It's better to go home and train your pets. If someone wants to know their final result, they can see it themselves. All the results are already posted on the wall. The first 20 participants will be allowed to enter the Trail of Antiquity. In a week, they will be taken to the Trail of Antiquity for the first time. Details will be announced later. Certification is over. After people find out the results, they can be free. The overlords, looking at the table, wonder who John is and why he has so many points. Edward notices a familiar figure in the crowd paying attention to it, and he recognizes his friend in it. Noticing the attention to his person, the main character runs away in an unknown direction, which surprises the blue-haired guy very much. Edward is surprised that John was able to defeat so many animals. He is upset because he tried so hard for a whole week, but did not move a step closer to his level. Many people ask who the guy in first place is. The guy explains that he is the new overlord who came from the school in the city. On his advice, he bought the light spirit pills for feeding, and the guy is also very cool. The eyes of my friends light up from what I heard, and they also want to buy the light pills. At the end of the assessment, John meets the same guard from the Bamboo and Stone Palace again, helping him exchange points. The man told his mentor that the boy's pet had acquired the Thunder Palm skill. The teacher invites the protagonist to the palace when he has free time. They have special karma, and the mentor also wants to pass on knowledge about the Thunder Palm to him. Having heard the necessary information, the guy runs away in an unknown direction. The guard thinks that this guy will definitely be able to learn everything. The guy thinks about the manager of the training palace. Maybe he will teach the guy something else besides the skill he has already learned, because he is one of the most powerful rulers in their city. He probably knows secret techniques. Returning home, the main character takes a hot bath with his pets, rejoicing at his speedy return. Finally, they will be able to eat normal food, enjoying the taste and safety. And they will also be able to sleep on a large bed, without being crowded on the ground in the forest, and not very long ago they wanted all this. The countryside is not at all suitable for living. When the main character has money, he will buy himself a big robot and will control it. He wants one like in the famous cartoon, so that he can become an airplane, a car, and even a house. The guy thinks that after all, they will only be taken away in a week. Maybe he should go when he becomes stronger. On the other hand, it would be better to go now. There is no need to limit yourself. At all costs, first of all, you need to spend all the money you earn. You can buy high-quality feed for the silkworm, and you can also stock up for quite a long time. The main character goes to the site to buy tonics. Pills without impurities are of much better quality than his pills, which are made from very poor raw materials. They are very expensive, but fortunately, he has money. The site also has tablets with the addition of plant sprouts, white flower queen bee pollen, and dragon frog oil. John doesn't understand why they seem so familiar to him. They probably really help a lot. The beans are not bad, but for a thing of such low quality, you will have to pay a lot of money. You can buy one and try it. Perhaps thanks to this tool, it will be possible to learn a new high-level skill, either multiplication or the skill of absolute sleep or the skill of intimidation. The main character spends a lot of money. There is no longer 10% of his profit. But with the help of expensive tonics, the 11th will be able to learn high-level skills, so it is worth it. Thinking about his expenses, the guy falls asleep peacefully without even noticing it. Suddenly, his pet jumps on him, screaming at him to wake up. He really wants to eat. Panda spent a lot of energy on training. He should be fed now. The silkworms still have energy from training, so he will not feed him today. The next day, John comes out of his house shouting that today he and the 11th will go to the Palace of Bamboo and Stone. Having received the notification, the guy takes out his phone. The goods he ordered the day before yesterday are now on their way. It's very fast. He hears a loud noise. Someone announces that they are ready to land, ordering him to move away. The courier man flew in on a huge eagle holding a huge box in his claws. The men get down from their vehicle, open the box, and take out a smaller package. He says that this is John's order, asking him to sign for receipt. The courier is a beast master. He only became a specialist this year. If he did something wrong, he asks to forgive him. The main character thinks that in this world, even the requirements for delivery are so high, although the salary is probably quite high, since the goods on that site are of very good quality. The courier wonders why the client needs so many high-quality tonics. At his level, he doesn't need that much. But that's not the point. Perhaps these products will be useful to him. The man flies higher and higher, taking his box with him, wishing him all the best. John opens his package of tonics, smiling as he looks at what he has been given. He calls his panda to him, asking him to come closer. With the ability to intimidate, you can also improve the skills of absolute sleep. Anyway, they have a lot of tonics. They can improve the skills whenever they want. In its enlarged state, the 11th has excellent combat power. While in its reduced state, its speed and recovery ability increases. So now is the best time to learn this skill. The main character begins to teach his pet a new skill. He thinks that he will get it again without effort, because he just learned the Thunder Palm skill. But the master again wants to make him stronger. The skill cooldown is now 168 hours. The guy thought the maximum cooldown was 72 hours, but now it's doubled. He decides to eat another bean in order to reduce the skill's cooldown. It is now 48 hours. It seems that learning high-level skills is limited. Until his own strength increases, the guy may not be able to improve his skills much even with tonics. Panda is mastering new abilities, feeling a surge of strength and energy. In order to test the success of the training, the main character asks his pet to increase in size. Suddenly, the animal's stomach begins to rumble loudly. Apparently, the increase takes a lot of effort. The guy orders the pet to shrink in size, and it becomes very small. It seems that when exaggerated, his body mass doubles. And when reduced, it becomes half as much, which is the limit now. It's time to eat. If the panda is in a smaller state, then the guys will be able to save a lot on food. One holy bean can compensate for the period of weakness for 120 hours. If you eat another one, then perhaps you can fully recover. Your health will be even better than before. The instructions say that during the period of weakness, you can eat women in large quantities until your strength is fully restored. The effect of the beans will be longer than 48 hours. This is an unnecessary expense, and the instructions do not say whether you can eat half. If you count and round up, then the main character can lose several thousand. He thinks about how to save money, whether something can be replaced or removed. The queen bee is clearly not considered a royal-level creature. Despite its name, it simply controls the system. This thing appeared thanks to the nectar of various flowers. It has many other names. In the guy's past, it was also used as a tonic. Those chewable capsules that John bought at the pharmacy restored the body forcibly. Only due to the presence of medicinal raw materials in the composition, they do not have the effect of reducing the recovery period of learning a skill. He will no longer go to the pharmacy. Suddenly, the guy discovers something else lying in the box. He doesn't understand what it is. Apparently, he didn't order anything else. It turns out that there is something wrapped in film with a note on it saying that someone is eager to see him perform again. It is a new combat suit, a note from a secret admirer. In the bamboo and stone palace, everyone is training, and the teacher is thinking that he has finally found a student who can fully obtain all of his knowledge, even mastering the skills of the Thunder Palm in just one day. The man has serious doubts about whether he will be able to teach him. Suddenly, a girl in a panda costume calls out to him. It is his daughter, who sold the panda to John. She suggests to her father that they go out for lunch somewhere, perhaps to the palace of the Dragon King. The teacher sternly asks the girl if she has finished her training. She passed the certification for the specialty of the Overlord at the age of 18, and then immediately changed the specialty to cultivation, chose the faculties of research and evolution to study the development ability of pandas. In the end, she did not research anything. Her strength fell, no results. The teacher remembers that his daughter mentioned John, spoke of a very disciplined beastmaster. The girl is happy that he decides to join the palace, but her father refutes this idea, explaining that he simply received orders to help him in his training. He asks if she knows how his panda developed after he left. She doesn't know, but she told them that if they have any questions, they can come to them at any time. But if he didn't come, then everything is fine. The man is very angry at these words. John and his pandas took part in the Mountain Lords competition, and he won first place. The panda lover is very surprised by this, because that panda only awakened to the 3rd level a month ago. The man doesn't believe it either, but he'll come to visit soon, and then they'll all find out if John is even half as good as they say. That'll be great. The daughter interrupts her father's thoughts about the imminent arrival of his student, asking if they will go to eat. The man boils over, answering that no. Meeting such a talented person is much more important than filling his belly. He needs to find out what is so special about this guy. He needs to get to know him sooner. The girl is surprised by the answer. Apparently, her father will dare to go against her mother and is not afraid to return to bed in the evening. She says that she has already told her mother that her father will come. He's dying, asking his colleagues to tell John to come after lunch. He's suddenly very hungry. The protagonist stands near the entrance to the palace, asking if there is anyone here. Suddenly, the door is opened by a familiar person. They meet again. The girl asks to follow her. The father is waiting inside. The man asks him to sit down, and the daughter's thoughts indicate that John really is not the same as before. The girl can't believe what her father told her at dinner. Where did the guy get such fighting abilities? She cared a lot about his pet and remembers how strong he was a month ago. Her father said that maybe John had a great chance. The teacher says that if the main character wants to study in the Palace of Bamboo and Stone, then he will teach him everything he knows. In terms of the development of the panda, he will not be able to give him much. Thunder Palm and Explosive Fist are the most valuable skills that the palace gives to the pandas, and although they feed them quite expensive food, it does not compare in value to the books that contain the secrets of these skills. John thanks them for this. The man offers him free use of 3 training grounds and all the equipment. Their palace also provides food for their panda. The teacher says that if he has any questions, he can ask to see him at any time. There is no need to go through standard training with other students. The girl is in great shock from what she heard, because her dad is not even that kind to her. The man believes that such talent requires a special approach. The guy is happy to hear this, saying that it suits him, because it is free food, housing, and even unlimited access to training equipment. He will also be able to consult with a high-level ruler at any time. It turns out that John can use the reward for participating in the certification to buy tonics, and the palace will provide food for the 11th. But he does not know whether the owners of the palace will be able to feed him to his fill. As for the silkworm, there is food for it everywhere outside. The guy did the right thing when he agreed to join this bureau. Otherwise, he would still be idle. As the teacher understood, his panda had already learned the Thunder Palm skill. Moreover, he had already reached 1 level in the hardening skill. The panda lover doesn't understand what's going on. Their conversation has long gone beyond what is permitted. The first thing the panda guy needs to do is train the Thunder Palm skill. It is a little easier than the Explosive Fist skill. Don't take on too much. If they want to learn the Explosive Fist skill, he advises them to first master the Thunder Palm skill. The guy thinks about what was said. Normal pandas probably need the Explosive Fist skill, but his panda is already doing just fine. He doesn't need the Fire Element ability. If necessary, the 11th will be able to master this skill later. The teacher suggests going to the training ground so that he can tell him more about everything, and before that, he will introduce him to other students. If he studies in their palace, he will need to contact them. The girl thinks that John doesn't deserve such kindness from his dad. If his mom were here to support her, she would have asked everything. The man says that the security guard from the certification told him about him, but he doesn't fully understand his situation. He would like to see the guy on the battlefield with other students. The daughter is very happy to hear this. She was expecting a similar phrase from her father. The guy says that it's not difficult for him. He's ready to fight. Usually, disciples who are at the practical training level undergo serious training in the palace. This is the basic training ground. The disciples of their gang train here after eating. The main character looks at the pandas. They are very lazy, not wanting to work. The 11th in their place would run with all his might. The teacher continues to say that pandas are very lazy by nature. They are trying to change this little by little through training. Otherwise, there may be problems on the battlefield. John says that if his panda doesn't complete the training, he won't eat. Otherwise, the balance won't be maintained. Everyone is shocked because they've never seen such pandas. The girl says that it sounds very unrealistic because they didn't have anything like that. She asks what the main character did with the 11th when he took him. He remembers the words of the panda. He said that the Lord gives him too much, which he does not deserve. He will try his best and resent his care with sweat and blood. The men continue to tell that after hardening their bodies, they engage in sparring to practice their hardening skills. They are approximately at the 8-10-year level. The teacher will choose the strongest one for him. He calls out to a man named Jeff, saying they are coming down. The man introduces him to a new student. Jeff looks at his teacher with confusion. Apparently, they haven't had any new students for a long time. Not far from the group of people, there are still some students of the palace. They make humorous comments about the teacher's daughter. The teacher calls them over so that everyone can meet John. The main character waves his hand, greeting people. Jeff tells him to contact him if he has any questions. The teacher says he wants the boys to fight. If the old student loses to the new one, he will train even more with his panda. Jeff thinks there's only one guy he can handle when he agrees to fight. The other students think that they weren't even given a chance to show off in front of their sister, but that the mentor just decided to scare the newcomer, wanting to show the real power of their palace. The strongest student asks John to prepare his pet. The protagonist summons the 11th to the battlefield. People around are surprised, because the panda is just a baby. It seems he is only at the 6th level of awakening, just a beginner. Jeff's panda is at level 10 and also has the hardening skill at the expert level. His daughter's teachers watch the beginning of the battle with interest. Each of them probably knows the outcome. The experienced student tells the newbie to attack first, otherwise they will knock him down along with the panda with the first blow. The 11th also rushes forward, leaving behind clouds of dust. The girl and the teacher are surprised by the speed. The power is very great. Jeff orders his pet to repel the attack, although this panda seems to be quite powerful, but still only a cub. An adult will use a skill to harden when an opponent tries to hit it. The guy is confident in his pet's hardening skills. 11th knows what needs to be done, so he uses electricity. The experienced student is surprised, because such a skill is only possible for a panda of a supernatural level. He no longer has time to cancel the skill for hardening. The adult animal flies back at great speed. The teacher is very surprised, because this is really a thunder palm. A baby panda at the 6th level of awakening has mastered this skill. It seems that this panda trained hard after receiving the skill, although it did not reach the point of completely losing its fighting strength. Jeff's panda may be left paralyzed. The guy is very surprised, not believing his eyes. His pet screams loudly, experiencing incredibly severe pain. He is ready to fight back. The 11th gets into a fighting stance in order to defend himself in case of attack. Jeff uses a skill called Hard Claws. The panda immediately takes off, heading towards his opponent. He thinks that he can't lose to a newbie, even if he uses the Thunder Palm skill. But if he loses to him, it will be a shame. If Truth loses, his panda won't be able to handle the extra training. John tells his pet not to take cover, but to continue to hold a solid form, and then attacks. This is a great opportunity to show off their hardening and smoke palm skills. The rest should be hidden for now. An adult panda cannot hit its cubs because its entire skin is hard as rock. There was no trace of the blow left on the 11th's skin. The opponent is surprised by this, because his opponent not only has the skills of Thunder Palm, but also the hardening of the expert level. This skill is higher than his. He tries to hit the little panda, but it doesn't work every time. Then the 11th decides to strike back, concentrating the force on his fist. By inertia, the panda flies high into the air, and the opponent flies towards his owner. She is knocked out, unable to continue fighting. John smiles widely, thanking his opponent for the fight. The man doesn't believe that this cub is at the 6th level of awakening. Probably even his students and their pandas who have passed the certification won't be able to handle him. The teacher comes closer, telling Jeff that he is lost and will now have to train twice as hard. The man thinks that his opponent is as strong as his teacher's own son. The teacher tells his experienced student to go and treat his panda, and the new student goes with him. The girl thinks about how the 11th has changed terribly since their last meeting. She angrily shouts at the other students that they too will have to study twice as hard. The students are still not sure that the newcomers are the newcomer, because he is very strong. 11th tells his master that the teacher and his face seem familiar to him. A group of people enter a round room with some word written on the floor. The panda and the girl are happy to meet. They look at each other, smiling. They hug tightly. The panda lover understands that this is still the same 11th, but it is unknown what happened to him, why he suddenly became so strong. The man says that the main character took great care of this panda. It is the best of all that he has seen. Suddenly, the pet realizes that she has most likely seen this guy at the base before, but does not know who he is. John thanks the man, who replies that the guys have unlimited prospects. He is very sorry that he will only be able to teach them a little. The teacher's gaze changes abruptly. He becomes stern and angry. A man opens an unknown portal with a panda symbol. A huge animal appears behind him. He says that he will show how to train the skills of hardening and thunder palm, and also provide reference materials. John takes a moment to look at the beast, realizing it is a fighting panda. The giant pet stands with its arms crossed. It is dressed in wide pants. It looks very menacing. It belongs to the teacher. Various skills of the hardening level should be written reference books. And as for the gram palm, the panda owns exactly at the initial level. If you hit the enemy with a powerful electric shock, you can put the enemy into an anesthetic state, but the penetration force is still small, Otherwise, the panda could pierce the enemy and kill him with one blow. Then the teacher turns away from the children, intending to show some technique. The teacher's animal prepares to demonstrate its skill by waving its hand. This is what the current penetration looks like in the thunder palm skill at the expert level. At this level, even hard steel can be penetrated with the thunder palm skill. John is very surprised. The strength of the 11th compared to this is simply nothing. The panda admires what he saw. He must do even better. The teacher continues to talk about the panda's mistakes. She lacks stamina when hitting. Well, at a deeply studied level, the thunder palm skill goes into a normal state. You can hold the electric current directly in your paws, like in gloves, and also use the shock with both paws at once. The giant panda demonstrates another technique, and the man explains that this is an expert-level thunder palm. Now you can bring this skill to perfection. The skill at the experienced level has more current penetration, which means it paralyzes the enemy more strongly. At this moment, you can generate the most powerful blow, as well as develop unprecedented speed. Once the protagonist has mastered this skill to a great level, the penetrating power of the current combined with the speed of the panda can be compared to even real lightning. John notes that it sounds very powerful and looks cool. The teacher says that this is not all, we should strive for something else. By snapping his finger, he signals his pet to show him a certain technique. He immediately raises his paw up, lightning flying around him. The beast is transformed, becoming similar to a human. The boys look at the ability with their mouths open. I guess it's a combination of thunder palm hardening. The experienced panda smiles slyly, realizing that she is the strongest in this place. The girl says that this is cooler than the usual combinations. Combining skills goes to a wonderful level. The combination of two skills at the excellent level of the Beast Masters is called the secret meaning. This is the thunder shell, one of the secret meanings of the father panda. With this hidden meaning, the panda can defeat even ruler-level creatures. Combining skills is very difficult. The panda must have both thunder palm and hardening skills to combine them. And using these two skills at the same time is not an easy task. The girl looks at her father approaching the panda. They are both very scared, and she emits a lot of electric rays from herself. First, you need to think carefully about whether the pet can use two skills at the same time, and then think about whether the strength of the two skills will counteract each other. Combination is not the strongest advantage. The strongest advantage is strong skills. If a pet has two excellent level skills and can combine them, it is called sacred meaning. Whether a pet can master sacred meaning and how strong it will be depends on the cultivation skills of the master. The teacher thinks that it is too early for John, and even for many masters at the specialist level, to know the word sacred meaning. Even for specialists to know this term is not just too early, but very early. After all, not every specialist can train his panda to a wonderful level. But if the 11th works hard, he will definitely achieve his goal. Suddenly, the protagonist asks if the thunder armor can be improved. His question greatly surprises everyone in the area, because this technique is already very powerful. The guy explains that panda's eyesight is not very good, and at such speed they will not be able to control their actions well. The panda lover says that there are no ideal sacred meanings, and with such an ace up your sleeve, in a battle with a not particularly fast opponent, you will already be successful. If there was some skill that could predict the enemy's movement to determine his location, then the effect of the Gram shell would be much stronger. It would be better to combine the skill of hardening thunder palm and multiplication at a fine level if you encounter a more powerful opponent. The teacher says the problem is that later it is difficult to master skills related to thinking and feelings. But he likes the way he thinks. Every greasy meaning is not perfect and has its own shortcomings. If you add a sacred meaning to a new skill, you can increase its effectiveness. Of course, for the main character, this goal is still far away. His task now is to increase the level of the panda's thunder palm skill. Then he can try simple combinations of thunder palm and hardening. Improving the skill of thunder palm is not easy, after all. This skill is not natural for pandas. To train in the palace, you need to have a strong ability to withstand stress. To train a skill to an expert level, the pet must have the ability to control strength, as well as physical endurance. If a mistake is made during the transition to an excellent level, the pet may get injured, and the training process will become too cruel for it. Each stage has its own aspects. If difficulties arise, the teacher asks to contact him. He explained to the guy the features of each stage of mastering the skills of the thunder palm. But there are still many details. Mastering all this is quite difficult. John happily raises his hand. saying that he will try, and the panda thinks about the different approaches of the master and this uncle. Let the protagonist master the combination of hardening and thunderpalm first. This will be enough to pass the specialist statue. And if he can perfect his skills and combine hardening, gram palm, and multiplication into one combination, he will be able to wipe the face of the earth, even an entire city. The girl shows John where the equipment for training basic elements is. 11th thinks that it is not clear here that training was in full swing. The panda lover also shows where the electrical training room is located. In this room, you can practice the resistance of electric current in pandas. The maximum force of impact is a natural level. There is also a pool of conductive electricity here, so you can practice water fighting techniques and at the same time train your resistance to current. Approaching the pool, the panda says that he wants to go there, but the guy asks him not to rush. If they use all this equipment, the 11th's training will become more complete and scientific. And the main thing here is that there is free food and water. While the main character is thinking about this, his panda falls into the pool. Entering the room, the girl calls her father, who asks if the guests are coming and if they liked everything. He says that they probably liked everything because Jonah's panda ate a lot. If this panda is really that disciplined and trains a lot, then it can eat more. The girl reads what the panda ate, namely electric ore, steel bamboo, steel wood, gold spirit ore, and their special set meal. Hearing this, the man is shocked. She ate double the food that their pandas eat after training. The teacher says that it is indeed a lot, but it is normal. The girl explains that they only fought once in the arena. Before they started any training, he thinks that they will need to stock up on food, but it is not a problem. It is only a panda in the awakening stage. But if the panda grows up and needs more food, he will not be able to provide it. Possesses the ability to fall into absolute sleep. The 11th can digest food faster in his sleep, so there is no need to worry that he eats too much. Everything will be absorbed. At this rate, the guy will be able to bring his pet to a supernatural level in just a few months. In this world, pandas live an average of 35 years. If the panda is properly fed and provided with good conditions for development, it will move to the supernatural level in about 10 years. At this age, pandas are already considered adults. Such a rate of development is normal for them. Well, the master can speed up this process, for example. The 11th can move to the supernatural level in just 2 years. There is no need to worry about Panda John's level in terms of certification, but his own level is questionable. We need to look for some means for hardening. There are not enough tonics anymore. At the panda breeding base, the main character is given a small sensor, which records all stages of training. It seems that father has placed all his hopes on John. He hopes that his panda will be able to overcome the border of his species. Suddenly, the guy notices something, and I am distracted from looking at the sensor. The girl slowly turns her head, not understanding what happened. The boy shouts at her to be careful. Her eyes widen, looking at the danger. John shouts that he will definitely use all these resources and will cope with everything. If the palace feeds the 11th enough, he will not let them down. He does not want the pet to just eat here for free. The girl smiles sweetly. I am touched by these words. The 11th got a good master. While he is with him, she is calm. Before going to bed, the main character invites his pet to learn a new skill. They stand in front of each other, rejoicing at the end of the day. Panda wants to see the limits of his abilities. His owner notices that he's trying harder and harder, but he is gaining skills for nothing. This is not very good. It is imperative to compensate them with labor. John activates the learning of a new skill by placing his head on his pet. Waking up in the morning, the main character slowly pulls himself up in his bed. It's good that he takes tonics. With such an expenditure of energy, he needs to sleep until the evening. The 11th already has the skills of the gram palm at an experienced level. It is unknown whether it is possible to learn anything else today. John notices that his pet is sitting tiredly on the rocks, not training at all. He doesn't understand what happened to his animal overnight. The guy slowly approaches him, asking what happened because he's kind of quiet today. The pet explains that hardening at a deeply studied level and thunderpalm at an experienced level will probably be difficult to combine. Not training all night, sleeping well, eating, but still can't combine the skills. John, looking at his insect, thinks that he must have been very scared because they had been training all night. It's probably a matter of lack of skill, but they'll succeed. The 11th is touched by this, thinking that he has a very kind master. You need to go to the yard again. The main character will no longer allow the panda to train at night. Because he eats a lot, it's better for him to sleep. I should have asked yesterday if it was possible to order delivery. Otherwise, going out for food every day is quite tiring. Arriving at the palace, John meets his teacher. He asks if he wants to explore the trace of antiquity. According to the military's feedback, this place is indeed better suited for training. With his abilities, he can get a lot of benefits. The teacher needs to leave the city for a while. If there are any questions, he asks to contact his daughter. The gray-haired man explains that the entire city buys food for the pandas here, and they also have delivery. The teacher said that he can freely use all the resources. Delivery is also included. He only needs to specify the quantity, address, and delivery time. The boy is delighted to hear this, and then asks for a triple portion of daily food for the pandas every day. There are 3 days left before the research expedition of the Association of Rulers. There is everything necessary, namely tonics and food. Now we need to learn a new skill, the skill of intimidation. The main character begins to conjure, starting today, his Panda King. The 11th is greatly transformed. He has learned all the necessary skills. All that remains is to improve them and become stronger.